Hello and welcome to the Cinebums podcast, season 6. I've just learned we are on season 6.
Yeah.
Of course, we're counting years where the Cinebums wasn't the name, right? With that, but
Yeah.
nevertheless,
Maybe season 4, technically, of Cinebums. If you're,
yeah,
I don't know, if you take those things really seriously or literally, but yeah, technically season 6.
yeah. It was me and John. It was exactly like this. So it's it's the same thing. It's
Yeah.
season 6. And we haven't done an episode with Jake in a while, and Jake's been doing his own thing a lot of the time, but he's been keeping the output of our channel and everything afloat, as John and I just weren't having it, this past month. We tried to schedule some episodes where guests fell through, and we didn't really have anything to replace it, just honestly. And I was pretty set on what we were gonna do last month.
Yeah.
And so what we were gonna do was Santa Claus with Tim Allen trilogy, everything, with our Jake and I's cousin Brendan, who has been on the show a few times. And Brendan has had some things going on, so we had to cancel the episode a couple times, unfortunately, including COVID. I mean, the world had so much COVID last month, right? Jake, you had COVID.
I had COVID post Christmas, like the day after
I had
Christmas,
COVID on Thanksgiving, personally.
Oh, wow.
He showed up to Thanksgiving with
and
COVID.
I went to Thanksgiving because I'm a spreader.
Canceled.
I'm ignorant, I'm ignorant. But I didn't get anyone sick somehow.
Miraculously, yeah, no one got sick from that, so he isn't canceled, I guess.
Luke, the Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
I
Touching
know.
the mics and everything.
My hero, of course.
My favorite NBA player.
That's what I like, spreading and defense, what Rudy Gobert has going for him. But we watched Planes, Trains, and Automobiles on Thanksgiving, and I had COVID and was hanging by Jake's roommate as Jake prepared some great eats that day.
Absolutely.
We can reminisce as much to Thanksgiving since it has been that long.
That's crazy.
Since John and I's last episode, which was how we want to be better.
Yeah,
it was
movies
how
that
we
make us
want to
better. Yeah,
movies that make us better. And John and I decided to then let ourselves have a long break.
Hibernation mode.
Which was to be better, to be less fatigued.
Yeah, it's like we really need to refuel and be better. And I think
we had some good episodes planned and everything, but it was just the worst time. I the end of November, mid-November to the first week of January is just crazy.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have that much plans going on, it just for some reason is.
You get caught up in the craziness of the times, of the consumerism, of the that jingle all the way consumerism and having to work and all that stuff. But we really were gonna go crazy with that Santa Claus episode, and I did watch all 3.
That's the funniest part, that you prepared and watched them all.
I prepared a lot. I was very ready to go, but unfortunately we had to cancel. And I was just John and I could have easily, I think, and Jake, you were working. We asked you to be part of it. But you had
I was working a seasonal retail job. The fucking consumerism, man, got the better of me. But what's funny is
always lurking.
It's always lurking. In the last episode that we have on the page, there's a major time jump in the editing because I teased the Santa Claus episode.
John, he even took on he did an ad for us.
Me and the guests, we were all
theater experiences episode.
Yeah, the best theater. We were bantering about Santa Claus for 10 minutes, and I was like, this is pretty great promotion for the Santa Claus. And then the next week we're like, oh fuck, I guess we're not gonna. It's all good. It happens.
Yeah. And the reason why I canceled was because like I didn't want to do that episode without our cousin Brendan, because he just felt, even though I thought John and I would have done a good job with it on our own, I felt, all right, in order to maximize this episode's potential, we need Brendan there. He's such a Santa Claus guy.
It's a jolly old guy.
He's a
it's
jolly
kind of
old.
become tradition to have him on the like Christmas episode.
Right. And for instance, he was telling me that he watched like 30 Christmas movies
Yeah, he
Jeez.
did.
last December.
Oh my
And
God.
I was like, so you have to have a guy like that on. And, Brendan's always so like, he brings such a good vibe and such a funny vibe whenever he comes
Good
on.
energy.
So I felt like in order to maximize, so we'll get to that next year.
We'll spend the next 11 months promoting
Preparing.
our Santa Claus episode in December 2023.
Yeah, and we'll do it just as good, we'll get to it, but that'll be after we do everything that we do this upcoming year. It
Yep.
will be shelved for then.
Yep. Yeah, so all those planned episodes that had to get scrapped will instead try and do early first quarter or first half of 2023 maybe. But yeah, we're going to keep bringing more episodes with guests, new guests, some old
I was
guests.
definitely thinking of that. That's part of the agenda. Like no need to disclose, because we haven't talked about it maybe officially, like episode ideas, but we have a lot planned and stuff. And rather than just throw it out there, like things that could end up not happening or whatever. But I would like to, follow, like Jake's had a good model of having people on, and like a lot of good cinephiles on every week, and some smart people too.
Too smart for this podcast, even. Probably.
It's really upping the intelligence game of the channel.
Where I'm like, hey, wouldn't keep up with that. But like I figured, we'd have like episodes with a lot of guests, and then we can have like backup episodes as well, as to prevent all the canceling that has been going on lately on this channel.
Cancel culture, just in a different way. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, anyways, today is our 2022 review, which is like very historical yearly thing that we tend to keep up with. And Jake is here for it because we're just gonna like do it all together. Everything 2022, including the Bummies, which we know for sure we're gonna be doing again.
Have to.
Which that'll be fun. I think I can see some interesting categories that we could create from a very interesting year in movies. For sure.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And today we agreed on that we're going to be doing the top 25 movies.
Part one. Yeah.
Yes.
Part one. Yeah. It'd take too long, but 25 is like a good number to me in terms of lists.
Yeah. So today will be
Like-
25 through our number 11 movie. And then
Right.
save
Part one.
save the real goods 10 through 1 for next time.
I think every year we've done something different. I think last year we did like top 30. The year before, maybe just top 10.
It's all over the
Yeah.
map.
I like to think that each year I'm like, nah, this is the right number of movies to talk about. We still haven't found that number yet. And maybe after today, I'll be like, it's definitely not 25.
It's not
That was
25,
a-
isn't
That
it?
was 25 was a nightmare.
That was a train wreck.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I guess I don't know how we should go about this. We always also do this differently. Maybe we don't. Maybe I can't remember. But when we do a list and we have like the same one, but like I have something at 18 that Jake has at 12, or like
Yeah.
Whether we keep talking about it
do
or
we
not.
skip that and like move on until it gets to whoever it's like highest on their list, or do we just talk about it then?
I feel like we could just switch off and talk about it,
I think it's always like subjective. It just kind of like depends on how the person feels like was said about it, before.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, yeah.
I feel like we could bring up each number for each round, but if say we talked already about it previously at length, we can just like really quickly share our thoughts,
Cool.
just so the list is complete, I guess.
Yeah,
And
I
we
always
got-
forget how that rule goes. I just always feel like we figure it out as
Yeah.
Yeah.
it goes along, sort of.
We'll
I
play
say
it by ear.
Just
Yeah.
play it by ear and see how the flow goes.
Yeah, because to be honest, I forget how it works. Like I'm so out of the flow of this, like right now.
It's not an
that-
exact science. Yeah. We'll figure it out.
right. It's been a while since a list too, for me, I think. So
Yeah.
okay,
yeah.
who wants to do number 25 on the list first? Mine is a doozy. I'll say right away.
Doozy.
I'm guessing it is.
I can start.
Go ahead.
I'll start. I don't know if this will be on either one of your lists. And I also, full disclosure, I'm sure you guys might have been the same way. Up until we started this, I was still like changing around my list.
Okay.
Because
I didn't really make time for that, so I might
Ah.
be like contradicting myself and be like, that's not right on the list.
you see, I always feel like with these lists, like a year later, you would probably change a
Yeah.
lot of it around.
Right.
Yeah.
You might rewatch a movie a year from now and you're like, that could be like number 3, like jump
Yeah.
up, So this is like right here and now. I feel like this is where it counts, I
Yeah.
guess. But
Yeah, and John and I, unlike Jake, have a tendency to procrastinate of the
Yeah.
year. And we tend to we did a lot better this year, because I remember last year I had just moved to LA and I was like, well, now I need to like watch everything that I didn't see, and I it was too much of a workload. And I
Mhm.
started earlier this year and I did a way better job. But Jake is one of those moviegoers that you see everything as it comes out.
most, yeah, I got that
Yeah.
AMC Stubbs A-list, man. So I can
Ooh.
Yeah.
I can just run the tracks at AMC and just see everything,
So
Yeah.
I'm very overwhelmed with also my thoughts on all these movies
Likewise,
because I procrastinated it and didn't have a chance
It's all scrambled up there.
to process like all
Right.
of them. I mean, like for instance, I just watched Tar and
Yeah.
and drank a shit ton of coffee, and I'm just like
Jeez,
really cycling that insane movie right now.
That is a lot to take in. Yeah.
Which is definitely one of the best films of the year, for sure. But I'm still like processing it, and I put it on my list high. But
That's good. You got
I'm-
time then to process and come up with
Right,
your
right,
kind of
right.
scramble your thoughts a little.
and I don't know even like I'm not gonna know what my thoughts are on a movie like that and specifically until I share them. you
Yeah,
know?
that's
Like-
kind of a movie that you need like a month to resonate.
Yeah.
So that's
For real,
Yeah.
for real, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I spent the past 2 weeks really cramming. Yeah. Much like I would do for like, finals in school. Like
right,
it's the same
right,
thing.
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
It's true.
Yeah, but
And
John and I both procrastinate this for sure, but we did better this year, I
Well,
think, than last.
it's
yeah,
good.
we did.
Things are on streaming and everything's
That's
kind of
super
out there right
helpful,
now.
yeah.
So it's a good time to cram if there was a time.
Right,
And
right, and that's partially the reason for the time off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
you can
that
correct
this
me if
could
I'm
be
wrong,
good.
Jake, but I feel like you probably have better, like you pace yourself better. And like
Yeah.
gradually over the year, you get to like all of
Right,
these.
right.
Whereas, we didn't
Yeah,
cram at the end.
there was definitely an element of me cramming as well, but I think I crammed maybe like 5 or 6 movies that I didn't get a chance to watch throughout the year. But for you guys, it kind of looked like 10 to 15, maybe 20 that you in the past like month that you guys have been like,
Yeah.
okay, this was highly talked about in April. Now I got to finally check it out. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Right.
I'm just an avid theater person. So that's kind of the reason why it's like my list just stacks up throughout the year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was sick earlier this week, so that gave me great opportunity to lay on
Mhm.
the couch and get like 2 or 3 knocked out in a day. So, yeah.
Yeah. It definitely took up a lot of my time cramming this in. You know,
Yeah.
I definitely was like, after this episode, I'm like, there's other projects in my life that I need to catch up on, because I was like, just so it was like always every day a new a new one, another one, you know. And that is part of being a consistent avid cinephile, that you forget when you're not doing it. Like when you say you take breaks from it, like, oh yeah, it takes up a lot of time, and it's a very dedicated thing to be. And like anything, it's kind of, I realize it's easier to do as you are consistent with anything.
Yeah.
Consistency, it's easier to let go and lose yourself in all these movies, and go to the theater as well. That comes with consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to point out, I think there was a time when I kept asking you, like, so what's the last movie that Luke saw? And for the longest time, it was like in the fall season, Luke's like, I think it's still Nope, which came out in like July.
And it was like August through like November. I missed everything. You know, I really did. I was not in it with movies at all. Yeah, I just wasn't. But yeah.
Yeah. Likewise. Yeah.
John,
yeah,
you wanted to start off?
I can start with my number 25. And like I said earlier, when I was about to go, and then I, of course, sidetracked us all. But I don't know if this is one you guys have seen, but it's a Netflix movie, and it's All Quiet on the Western Front.
No,
on my list.
Did not see it. Even though I saw you saw it, like very long Netflix war movie.
Yes.
That I did not watch.
I feel like every year there's like a new war movie about either World War I or World War II. We're still talking about those wars. And yeah, I think this is also, it's based on a book from long ago. But then there's also a movie back in the day that I've not seen. Right. That was originally based off the book. But yeah, I thought this was overall just a solid war movie. It is nothing, I think, that's like especially groundbreaking or new. It's just kind of like, to me, a good war movie that it's not glorifying war or anything like that. Nobody looks cool in it. It's very depressing and dark. Everybody looks like they're shitting their pants constantly. And it starts out, you know, it's about this this group of German soldiers who they're very, like, in the beginning they're so like gung-ho about like, yeah, joining the army, like this is the thing we should do, like we're doing like a good thing, the right thing for our country. And then just gradually it just gets so bleak and terrible. And I think the cinematography is really great. It's really beautiful and dark. And yeah, like I said, it's not glorifying violence of any kind or making someone out to be like the big hero, really. It's just it all sucks. Everybody is always scared out of their mind. And there's a great scene too that I think puts into context, like in World War One. And I know, I think we're all like a little bit of history nerds, but it's like the first time that like tanks were used. And I just think there's a great scene that I think was like shared around social media too, of like the first time these soldiers are seeing tanks in person.
Right.
And it's just that, like, yeah, it's a really, I think, well shot scene to really just show the terror, like, you know, in something like Lord of the Rings or something where there's just this battle going on, and then this crazy thing these crazy like creature.
Then the elephants come.
The elephants come. Yeah,
they're like,
it's like,
fuck,
what
they
the
got
fuck
elephants.
is this?
Yeah,
yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, to me, it's like it's just like war is advancing to like a more futuristic, fucked up level. It's like,
yeah,
you know, in Terminator when they're like fighting people. You know, like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that sounds cool. I'll check it out eventually, probably.
Yeah. So it's an interesting one. It's not, I don't think it's gonna, you know, it's not gonna like win any awards really, but yeah. just a solid movie overall. So I felt like I had to include it in my list.
It's like Hollywood eyes, but not in a too like in like maybe.
I think it's foreign, actually, isn't it? Like,
Oh, is it?
I think it's German.
it's a German.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, directed by Edward Berger. Yeah,
Edward Berger, of course.
But yeah, it's like accessible enough for just like the mainstream audience, but it's not too over the top. Like,
right, to where it rubs you the wrong way.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, this beautiful soldier. He's like this hotshot soldier, and he misses his beautiful wife
like
back home.
Lone Survivor.
Yeah, it's not like a Peter Berg war movie.
Black Hawk Down.
It's like these are stupid kids. Well, not stupid kids, but like innocent kids.
It's naivete of
they're
war
involved
and stuff,
in the wrong conflict, all that.
That they in their minds glorified like what it's like to be in a war and in the army, and then they quickly realize that it fucking sucks. So yeah, that's All Quiet on the Western Front. 25.
I'll go next then.
All right.
I have a lot of. This was tough because I have 102 films on my 2022 list. So I like John. I was scrambling and kind of rearranging things. But it was a tight race for that number 25 spot. But
oh yeah,
I had to give it to Cha Cha Real Smooth by the man Cooper Rife. He directed Shithouse a few years ago, which was a really great debut, and this was his follow-up for Apple TV Plus, sort of his breakout movie that co-starred Dakota Johnson, so it got a lot more attention, and she produced the movie. And this movie is just lovely.
Yeah, it's coming up on my list later.
I assume, one of you guys are going to talk about it. This is kind of a just a ubiquitously loved movie. Like if you have a soul, like this movie speaks to you. And not to mention, like the lead character's place in life is just very, 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 very relatable and sort of.
Yeah, he's 25, I believe, in it, right?
I think he's like straight out of college. I don't know. Like actually here, he's 22 years old in the movie.
Oh my god. He's 22.
The director in real life is my age, which is crazy. Like there's no other.
All right. So that's what I was thinking of. Actually, Cooper Rife's age.
Yeah, he's my age. Yeah.
Okay.
We've actually, me and him have back when he did Shithouse and he was kind of a nobody. We used to DM on Instagram a little bit to talk about like filmmaking and stuff.
No way.
Wow.
He's a super nice, cool, really like down to earth guy, as you can tell from Cha Cha Real Smooth. So I'm really happy he had like his breakout role. And this is probably my favorite performance Dakota Johnson's ever given. Like it was a very lived in character, really beautifully authentic character. And just a beautiful relationship blossoms out of this movie. And I love the whole, kind of that coming of age story where you really come to terms with that you got so much more time left to have heartbreak and all of that sort of adult nonsense that he comes to terms with. And obviously Luke said we're going to talk about it more, so I could stop there, but I still love and think about that movie often.
Yeah, I really liked it, and that's really cool that you DM'd Cooper Rife for sure, because I was like, after this movie I was like, I really respected this man. like to act in his film and play such a valiant character, and also like just he really warrants acting in his film. Like he's a really great,
he's fantastic
actor.
Yeah.
And when I was watching it, I was like, I feel like I've seen this guy before, but I know I haven't, and definitely like a guy I want to stick around more in the industry and keep making stuff. He's got some, good things to say. Yeah, you should try to send him your action script.
He did.
He'll be like, I don't make movies like this at all.
He started a production company I saw, and I was like, man, what are the chances if I reach out to this guy?
Yeah.
He did.
Shoot your shot.
Yeah, shoot my shot. But he's a really enduring person, and he's making movies that that aren't really too common in Hollywood. So
Yeah. And the Shithouse movie, is that what it's called? Shithouse?
Shithouse is his debut, and I
Yeah,
like
that's
it
a movie
even
I've
more.
really wanted to get to recently.
Yeah, that's a great one. I like it even more than Cha Cha. Real smooth,
Oh,
actually.
wow.
It's
Yeah.
really
I just got to pull the trigger on that rental.
yeah.
That's all that's holding me back, guys. But not to say that I didn't pull the trigger on the rental for a lot of the movies
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
talking about.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I owe Jake some money.
Yeah, use my Amazon Prime account.
All right. Yeah, cool. Cha Cha real smooth. We'll talk about it again, probably really repetitively later, since we've said a lot about it. My number 25. Like I said before, it's a doozy. It's one that probably will give me some flack from some. And it like just made the list. I could definitely have something else in here, and it's also from earlier in the year.
Oh man,
You already know what it is. It's Jennifer Lopez's "Marry Me" with Owen Wilson. It just made the list, guys.
I'm glad you're bringing this up, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it definitely could easily be on the worst of the year. Also, you could almost think.
One could argue, yeah.
Which is also why it's in my top 25 because it's like a movie that's so bad it's like good in a way, and it's like so cringe and weird that it's good. But it's also like so perfect, where you're like, oh my god, I can't believe they did this. Like they saw that chemistry, a weird chemistry would occur between Owen Wilson and Jennifer Lopez, and it's like
they're very charming together.
Yeah, and the movie's like super mainstream and like popular, and it goes with that reggaeton genre and stuff like that a lot, that is really popular with like artists such as not just Jennifer Lopez, but like who's like, God, who's one of those guys like not like the modern Don Omar
Pitbull or something.
Who's like the biggest one though?
Is Bad Bunny?
Bad Bunny's
Bad Bunny. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
the Bad Bunny genre.
Yeah.
That is like sweeping the nation. It's kind of like the bad guy that she dates in this is kind of, I think, like, even though he's a musician in real life, he's very much playing towards one of those guys. And I don't know. I just like that. I like how that stuff's, being represented in movies, that genre of music. I think it's like fun. It's not like my favorite or anything like that, but I enjoy it and I think it's fun, and it's definitely just very popular nowadays. And then on the other side of this movie, you have Owen Wilson, who is a normal, weird, nerdy teacher in New York, and just has such a down-to-earth life. Almost seems like a guy who's from the Midwest. And he's like, I go to bed at 9 a.m. and then I teach something in the morning. He teaches like math or something like that. And he just loves math.
Yeah, there's the whole final set piece at the math competition.
Right. And he might have a speech in this where he's like, math just makes sense or something like that. And that's why I love it. Everything is in order. Right, exactly. Like there's one answer. There's no wrong answer. There's only one right answer. I might be paraphrasing something else, but it's just a really ridiculous movie that actually kind of works and is actually kind of fun, while also making you shake your head a lot. Like I love shake your head movies a lot, like cringe things.
Wow, that could be an upcoming Bummies category. The shake your head category.
Yeah, and I shook my head a lot, and also felt like the audience in this was very like, I felt like I was sitting around a lot of normal, like just like regular people, like mainstream audiences, like not a Marvel movie necessarily, but like its own like.
No, there are a lot of old ladies and couples around us.
Yeah, a lot of couples, for sure. Like
people
another
that just
movie,
like decide to go see a movie and then like,
exactly,
this one's out.
this really
Yeah.
appealed to me, you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. This very much appealed to them.
It's people they know, actors they know. So yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
every time I see this like poster, I always get that song stuck in my head too. The
Marry me.
marry me, say yes.
right.
Marry me.
The soundtrack
everyone-
of this movie is really good. Actually, like pop
Right.
songs, like
Yeah.
Yeah,
For an
and the most
original movie, it's pretty
ridiculous
solid.
song is like the love of my life like song that everyone will like recites in their reviews or something on
Oh yeah,
Letterboxd.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I am the love of my life.
Yeah.
self-empowerment song.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like in here because it's so ridiculous. Like another movie that didn't make it, but is in this like that I really like that could have made it could have made it for the same reason is like Ticket to Paradise with Clooney and Julia Roberts. Very ridiculous movie, but I also like really enjoyed it. It's another vacation. It's a vacation rom-com, and it's just very mainstream, but also charming and very first world. You know. They're like in that movie. They're like, we're in Bali, you know. It's like I think Adam Sandler would have done. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's "Marry Me."
I'm glad you brought that up because that was I remember
That's
we talked
your
about that
next
a
one?
lot in the early stages of 2022. I felt like it was like an anticipated one for many people. So, but
For a
it's kinda
while,
gotten
it was the
forgotten
best movie I think I had seen at the start of the year.
now. Formerly number one. Yeah. All right. So it's back to me on 24. As one you guys have both seen. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. It's my number 24. And yeah, I liked Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. It was a sort of fun teen horror flick that I thought was very very funny. I really enjoyed the sort of commentary on just like Gen Z and like younger millennials always like diagnosing everybody else as to like what their problem is, and just kind of like you'll literally do this instead of go to therapy, like that kind of like attitude. And and the cast is great too. Pete Davidson, Maria Bakalova from Borat.
Yeah.
Glad she's getting more roles.
She's awesome.
She's really great. Rachel Sennott too. I thought she was the standout of this movie.
From Shiva Baby. She's awesome too.
So I like a lot of really great I don't know, young actors in this just ridiculous movie where I think a lot of funny things happen. And then I like at the end, spoilers, where it's kind of all of this sort of happens by, mistake in a way. And it's all them just being sort of like shitty kids. And I just thought it was a really fun, interesting movie. I would say there are movies on my list that are like below it that I think are definitely like better overall films. But I had fun with this one. And
fun brought it up basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one barely missed my list. And there was one I should have mentioned on the best theater experiences, because this was a great movie that played in a crowd. Mainly because the script is so unpredictable and the lines are also just deeply quotable lines. So I had a great time with this movie. And one of the best lines in this movie is when to be like meta is when they're talking about podcasting. And Rachel Sennett's like ranting about how hard it is to book guests and like set up an RSS feed and stuff.
Yes.
I thought about us a little when they kept referencing the pod as I was watching it, and like
really funny. Yeah.
You gotta promote the pod and all this stuff.
Yeah, when she was talking about how difficult it is, it's like, you know how difficult it is to run a podcast.
She's like in tears as she's explaining it. It's
right.
As we were just talking in the beginning of this episode about how difficult of a time we had the past couple months trying to get episodes together. Yeah.
Right. And I was telling John like last time, I think, which was a while ago, but I remember telling him like, yeah, John, the editing actually takes a long time.
Yeah.
After John did it for so long, and I was
Now
like,
you understand.
yeah,
When
it
we have
took
like
me-
3-hour episodes. Yeah.
and John was kind of like, yeah, they've always took a
I love how in
Yeah.
Bodies too is that their class system is not even like upper class. They're like absurdly upper class. Like they're in a mansion and like they're East Coast elites to the max. So it's
Right.
like
I
they're
like that kind of stuff. Yeah.
their absurdist, behavior is really validated in that sense. Cause like I think
Yeah.
it's Pete's, I don't forgot whose mansion they're at, but it's like stunningly big and it's like
Right.
and they're all kind of part of that same generation. So yeah, I like that
Yeah.
stuff too.
Yeah, a lot of satires this year.
Yeah,
Overall, this is not going to be the only satire on our list. Like, a year that and definitely better than last year, because last year's
That was a
satire
great
was like don't look up and shit like that. So I
Yeah,
feel like
it's
this
the
year
satire.
was a little better with satires. Not the only one we'll mention, but
right.
yeah, when I was watching this, I felt like, wow, the satire has even become like, it feels like more normalized this year and just how many there are. And but yeah,
Definitely.
Bodies is good, for sure. And it just made my list as well.
Yeah. My number 24 is I'm sure you guys have this higher, so I won't spend too much time, but The Northman, Robert Eggers' follow-up to The Lighthouse and The Witch. He obviously, like most film fans, I'm a big fan of that guy, and what he's contributing to movies. Some would
Yeah.
say he has a pretty solid fan base. But yeah, this was a great outing, a great expansion, I think, of his other work, because he kind of went away from the surrealist horror realm and went more of sort of a fantastical
Right.
exploration on like masculinity and family and sort of the thing about Eggers that really I've come to love is just his immersion factor of all of his movies, like really transporting you into worlds that have never been shown on screen, maybe since like the silent era of movies. In the case of like Viking stuff, I'm sure there's like shitty sci-fi TV shows that depict the Viking period. But this movie was just ruthless and just gorgeously shot, like most of his films are. Alex Skarsgård is one of the best up and coming actors we have, and he's just ripped to shreds in this movie, and like his physical transformation is absolutely just so cinematic. Even like his character is just so big and boisterous and crazy.
Yeah. Definitely.
And yeah, in this movie, not as captivating as the other Eggers movies for me personally, but this movie did have just like an exceptional sort of build of events towards the final set piece, which is just the best. So yeah, I mean, that's another movie that I think unanimously people really, really liked. So yeah, it rules.
Yeah, I'm starting to see there'll be a trend in our lists in which you bring things up that are going to be brought up way later for me, because you've seen a lot more films. Like
That might
I'll be
why,
talking,
yeah.
I'll be talking about The Northman way later.
Me too.
Nice.
But boy, yeah, I feel transported more than probably any film this year. I would say if you were just gonna have a list of, well, never mind, not more than any other film. There's probably one other.
Yeah, I was gonna. I'm gonna bring that one up soon.
Because but it is there's like two movies this year that transported me. Like I took a red pill or the blue pill or whichever pill it was, transported me more than anywhere, where I felt like I left the Burbank cinema. I happen to have seen both the two most immersive movies at Burbank this year. And yeah, the Northman, like it's all about the immersion and yeah, about revenge and anger a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And
and kind of the worthlessness of revenge, kind of.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
kind of defining your whole persona as a human being, and the more that movie goes on, the sadder Alex Skarsgård character sort of is presented.
Yeah.
And I love how it kind of just like he's just worthless by at the end of the movie, and it's just in true Robert Eggers fashion, like all hope is just gone at the very end.
Right.
So
that scene where he like leaves Anya Taylor-Joy is really like what the fuck? Yeah. But yeah, this is one of my favorites of the year that will also come up, and one of my favorite theater experiences.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like you kind of said too, like just the build up to it, like it just had such great momentum the entire time leading up to the end. But yeah, and if you want to hear more about best theater experiences, go back and listen to Jake's episode from last month too.
Please do.
Yeah, cool. It'll come up again 2 more times.
It will.
Yes.
All right, we're at me, number 24. Okay. We were talking about satires. My number 24 is The Menu. Which I really like. I think this movie is one of those where like I get subjective in a way, and I go like, I wish there was this things about it that were better. And it would have been even like higher on my list. I would have liked it even more, but I do really like The Menu. Mainly because Ralph Fiennes is like, so well cast and is such perfection in his own world in this movie. I don't think the rest of the movie, specifically maybe the rest of the cast, do I like as more as Ralph Fiennes. Maybe, I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with that.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I feel like he was far and away like the most compelling.
Yes, I wish the ensemble in The Menu was better, because it's like the Knives Out trilogy, like it's all about the ensemble, and not just Daniel Craig. It's like Daniel Craig is traveling in this world, but like it's about the ensemble of, like, in this case, and Knives Out is more of about the whodunit genre, when The Menu is more of, The Menu had, like, I think the Menu is following up a certain genre of films that have been done, not quite the whodunit, but more of the,
it's like
I guess,
situational mystery thing,
right? And like everyone going to an isolated place from an invitation, and all, like, it's kind of a very anonymous, and you don't know what's for what and why they've been chosen, but it's all been orchestrated, that sort of thing. And I really love the idea of it so much. I love how uptight and perfectionist and creative the whole chef world is with it. And I love how it's like, he's all like, you're entering my world, so you better act right, because I'm giving you this food. But then it turns out, like small odd things happen, like, hey, we're not getting any bread, like we're only getting the toppings for bread, like give us some bread. And then it gets even more real and violent and stuff like that. I like all of it. I just wish the ensemble was better. I didn't find anyone super memorable in it. And I think that's partially casting, partially the script as well. And I just felt as it went on, it didn't have as much to explore as I wish it went further with its ideas. But I like the ideas. I like how he's like, I've always served, because I'm at the highest of the profession. I've always served the shittiest and richest of people. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like how dry and insane Ralph Fiennes too was. Like towards the end, when everybody kind of gets what's going on, and he's like, "You will die. Okay, you'll die." Like it's just so like blunt about it. I thought that was just a funny part of his character too, to this just like sick thing that was happening.
He finally exposes to, I think it was John Leguizamo, is like why he despises him, and it's just because he saw a shitty movie that he did on one afternoon. That's really great. I'm kind of with Luke's opinion, where there's no escalation in that. The escalation in that movie is kind of just flat, where it exposes a lot of cool ideas about like the elite and the kind of the snobbish goer to like the sort of elitist island of pleasure, and they don't truly appreciate it. They just don't really say much with it
Right.
later on
Right.
throughout the movie. It's kind
And
of
it tries to start it up because they have like, oh, we have the critics, you know, and then we have the guy
there's like the
who
Wall
looks up to this
Street
guy more
guy,
than anyone.
the Wall Street trio, you know. They're
Right.
fun archetypes, but I agree, like the characters don't stick out in my memory.
Nah, they're not super original, you know, but like it's kind of fun. It is fun to watch them be all commentating as the dinner's going on, and they're like wondering what they're doing and stuff like that. But
yeah, it's a fun ride for sure. And the direction's really good, like the kind of the shots of the food and sort of the cleanliness and the perfectionism is really put on display in the editing too. Mark Mylod is a great, he directs a lot of Succession episodes and stuff. He's like a really great up and coming director. So.
Some I still haven't gotten into, but I'm meaning to, you know?
Yeah. So he's promising, you know, and the movie itself is like really promising overall, you know.
Nice. Yeah, I assume that's way further down your list, but
yeah.
You know, like that's just, you know, different pots, you know, we're working with sort of.
For sure. Yeah.
Maybe in the grand scheme. Yeah. But yeah, that's the menu.
All right, moving on to number 23. Fairly, I know this will be on Luke's list, but and Luke, I remember once you first saw this, you talked about it a lot. But my number 23 is Elvis, the Baz Luhrmann Elvis movie, and I just got to this past week. I didn't get to it right away because I think we talked about this a little bit too. Is I've never been a huge like Elvis person. I sort of like the idea of like, you know, the character of Elvis in just
I was genuinely a little surprised when I was like, wait, John's on Elvis, you know, but like it's not the biggest deal in the world.
I think when I was younger, you know, I really was like interested by it, but then no, as I got older, I got less interested in him. But I think he is really like, I didn't know a whole lot about his relationship with Colonel Tom Parker or just like much of his backstory at all. I enjoy this, and I think Elvis is like the perfect over the top type of character for Baz Luhrmann's like style, because like who, you know, what other, you know, there's not many other people in the past 100 years.
The absurdity of like the glamour and stuff and like the excessive shows and like all of it. Yeah.
And that was my favorite parts of this movie were just like the grandiose performances, the big giant Elvis letters, and just the live performance scenes, you know, and later on were just really just incredible. I think we also talked about this last year, maybe I forget regarding what, but maybe like we were a little fatigued by music biopics, or maybe just biopics in general.
Were we?
I remember we talked about that with something, but I can't remember.
Sounds like something that would happen.
We might have talked about like the Queen movie or Elton John movie or something like that. I enjoyed this for what it was. I thought it was I just enjoyed the spectacle of it. I also I thought at first I just wasn't really gonna like the Tom Hanks character of Colonel Tom Parker, just because it was kind of distracting. Just and you know, it's maybe not his fault because he's Tom Hanks, but I just like, it just looks so bizarre. Tom Hanks, with these like prosthetics on and doing this ridiculous accent. But I think
he's doing a bit of a House of Gucci thing almost.
Yes, yeah. But as it went on, I that really didn't bother me, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's Elvis. I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more later on too.
Yeah, definitely an epic that doesn't hold back, you know, with its energy for sure. Right from the get-go, and I like it. I like it. I'm always I love the transition, especially from like old Elvis to Vegas Elvis in it. A lot. And I'm not like one who's too like, even though I've always liked Elvis, like I've always had moments where I would listen to Elvis. I've never been like one where I knew everything about Elvis. So like I actually like learned a lot about his life and how like kind of shitty it turned out to be, which I thought was interesting.
That's some of that footage of him, like as a side note, some of that footage of him like in real life later in life in Vegas is like really just like heartbreaking to see. Like I don't know if you guys have seen the video. There's a video of him on YouTube, and it's like 2 months before he died, and he's performing in Vegas. I forget what song.
Right,
but
it's like his last performance of. I don't know the name, but like I listened to this song a lot. And he is kind of like collapsing over it as he's doing it.
Yeah,
if you watch like the physical footage, like it's a great like track to listen to on its own. But if you watch the video footage, it does look like he is in not good health and not good. He doesn't have good energy as he's singing it. It really has to get it out of him, and it's one of his last ones. Yeah.
The performance was like amazing for
really good.
Like his condition and everything.
He's like very much a myth, like almost like a mythical figure or something.
Totally.
Like the history of music, which is like what I like about it. I think the movie definitely represented it. And Austin Butler, damn, like holy shit, he's so good.
Incredible.
To play it. And boy, is he like such a cool actor to have around nowadays, and has.
I don't know if you saw his Golden Globe speech, but he sounds like exactly like Elvis in real life.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's
a deep voice.
If he's still in character or not, but it's like the charm of Elvis is still lingering in his body, so it's pretty crazy.
I think it's actually how he sounds.
It's really crazy.
Right.
Perfect casting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Another one that barely made my list. I'm a big fan of Elvis as well. So my list is just too fucking long, is what I'm learning here. Speaking of which, this is a movie that, man, in any other year would be so much higher. And I know Luke is going to talk about this one later too. So I'll be brief about it. But Avatar: The Way of Water is number 23. And I tried to space out my blockbusters a little bit, so I didn't want too many crowded in the top 20, just to get a good mix of indies and blockbusters. And having the biggest blockbuster of the year in there is definitely a necessity. So, yeah, I mean, what else could you say? Like, James Cameron pulled it off. He's kind of the most bankable Hollywood figure that we have. You know, this was all sort of consumed by him. You know, it was all to create a world from nothing, literally nothing. You know, like computer generated imagery from nothing is something, you know, a lot of us can't really fathom that, and we have no idea how the fuck it even happens. But to make it look that authentic and that amazing, I've heard a lot of like people in passing, you know, like I had a waitress at a diner last week, and we were talking about it, and she came up and was like, I thought it looked like shit. It felt like I was in a video game. And I was just kind of like, you know, for most people, they don't really see the craft in a movie like that. They kind of just on the surface kind of look at it, oh, it looks kind of shitty, but they don't really realize, you know, the textures and all the amazing mechanics he did to make that movie come to life. And, you know, there's a lot of criticism going around about that movie that were similar to the first movie, where the story is very surface level, and he kind of uses the same structure as the original film, which also stole its structure from like Pocahontas and the New World. But I really don't give a shit, because he's doing things cinematically that no other director can or tries to do, you know. So yeah, I had a great time with it. The action's fantastic. The whale looks really fucking awesome.
There's all these awesome whales.
Yeah.
The movie peaks with the whales.
Better than the Darren Aronofsky's Whale movie by a mile. And it's not even called The Whale. So
yeah, definitely better than The Whale. I haven't even seen The Whale.
The Whale is gonna, when we do best worst of the year, I will talk about that movie. But yeah, and really expanded on the Sully family in a really profound way. And the movie, it's James Cameron.
The most important thing is he expanded on the Sully
family, man. He really made you feel for the
That's
the
what
Sully
we needed
clan.
was more Sullys.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you look back at James Cameron's work, you know, T2 is the core of that movie and the emotional core is all about sort of that surrogate family feeling. And I feel like he brought more of that back
That's a good point.
in
That's
The
a good
Way of
point.
Water. So yeah, and I was
Like how
emotional.
Jack Dawson is Rose's
Yeah, sure.
surrogate
Yeah.
family, you know,
Is this a
even though he is
surrogate?
just Jack, but that's all you need when you when you have Jack Dawson.
Yeah, and he always in every movie he's ever made manages to just get you deeply attached to the protagonist by the end of the movie, no matter what
Yeah.
it is. So I don't know how he does it, man, but I really liked The Way of Water, and yeah, like I said, you're gonna probably bring it up later. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much biased because I very much believe in James Cameron. So if you believe in James Cameron, it's really easy to like love Avatar: The Way of Water. And if you aren't as much into James Cameron, I can see someone not really giving a shit at all because it is a very like fantasy world thing. That is like very narratively in a lot of ways is just not new at all and is also very just kind of a strange thing to immerse yourself in. But like James Cameron has like chosen to work on solely this, and it is very odd for like what like like an odd point in his career. Um, but I have also watched interviews, for instance, where he like really where you kind of get more closure on why he's very into this.
yeah,
And there's a big humanitarian aspect and a philanthropy aspect
yeah,
that is a part of
true.
it, and a big part of the like macro just macro view of the world in general. And like I think the first Avatar, he did a lot of outreach with third world
Yeah,
countries after the release. And when you look at it that way, it kind of does like make me buy into it a little bit more, that this guy has spent like 10 years working on building a CGI world and like thinking of a narrative for it, and like just immersing himself totally in that. It's just really fascinating and interesting, and it does in the end show when you're watching it. You're like, oh wow, this does look like it took 10 years to make. And like when we were talking about The Northman earlier, the other most immersive movie is definitely The Way of Water, and I'd say it's a little more immersive than The Northman just because of that factor that it was
and it's
curated.
3D.
Yeah, and it's 3D, and it's 3D 3D well. It actually is really great. It's not like obnoxious uh Disney World 3D, which is all about like am I gonna get hit by something? It's kind of just enhancing the cinematic experience, that the immersive cinematic experience, like being underwater and being around all these like very very colorful plants and like species and stuff like that.
The
Yeah,
best
it's
analogy I heard about that Big Jim when he was talking about making these movies is he wants you to feel like that there's no camera. So if you were to
right. Yeah,
turn
yeah.
around
Right,
in
right.
the world of Pandora, it's a full 360 viewpoint of this planet, and like you're in the ocean with them. And I 100%
Right, right.
believe he pulled it off. And again, like you were saying, like if you buy into James Cameron's sort of agenda as an artist and a
Right,
philanthropist, which
right, right.
is a good point, you're gonna love this movie. And if you're not, and I totally get it, then you're just not gonna give a shit. And from second one of that movie, you're kind of not gonna be as immersed as everyone else. So
Right.
it's
And I am about James Cameron, and I was still kind of like at the beginning I was skeptical, actually was. I was like, am I really going to like this? Am I going to care about it? Is it actually going to be something amazing after all this hype? Um, and I was skeptical, especially during the first act, as I was like, here we go, more of this, more of the stuff from the first one. But as the movie goes on
yeah.
and like reveals itself and shows you the way of the water, you start to like get it, a little bit more. And like, he brings you into the world, and you're like, okay, all right, yeah, this is amazing.
John, did you Is it gonna be on your list coming up?
No, so the reason I have no anecdotes to add is because my confession, I have not seen Way of the Water yet. And I was planning on seeing it in this past week, but I think I got to the point where I was like really fatigued of trying to cram all these movies in, that I knew I would get to it eventually within the next few weeks probably. But but I mean, I'm excited to see it.
It'll be there a while. It'll be there a while. And,
I figured it would be in theaters for a long time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But I do like, I mean, I think James Cameron he really gives a shit about whatever he's doing. Like he's not spending all this time on like another Avatar movie just because the first one made a boatload of money.
Yeah.
And so you like all of these projects he works on, like Titanic, like he's just so obsessed about these different, whether it's like a humanitarian cause or like world conservation,
something historical, or like like the sci-fi aspect is very, where he started is very forward thinking, you know, and it's always like, it always very much connects to real world things. Like there's always themes that are like very important in them, you know. So that's why he's like the ultimate, like great, like you're like big Hollywood, like he is like a Hollywood director, you know what I mean? He is the Hollywood director a lot of the times for me. And
that's why I want to see it, because I know he like cares about how well like the film is made and what I guess the message is behind it. I will say in the past year I did go on the new Avatar ride at Disney World, which really was a very immersive, cool experience too. So I got like 3 minutes of what I assume Way of the Water is like.
That sounds really cool. That sounds really cool.
I heard it's really dope. Yeah,
it is. It's like, I don't know, when you're even just like in the new Pandora world they made, it's like, you know, you could say whatever you want about, I know, like Disney and the consumerism, capitalist monopoly, whatever you want to say, like they hire the best engineers of, you know, to do this, to create these like worlds, and it was pretty amazing. So
and the Orlando Disney, as we all know, does not hold back. With it does spares no expense, like John Hammond would say, on all of its like rides and its parks and its worlds. So like, no, you will have no hate for me on the Orlando Disney. I'm sure that there's an Avatar ride like that is much more scaled down in like the park here and down in probably Anaheim. But I still would go on it and be super psyched because as I've stated, I'm into this Avatar stuff.
So that's my review of the theme park ride.
All right. My number 23, I will need some help with the it's definitely so this is one where Jake, I think it's going to be on your list much earlier. And the Cinebums podcast did an episode featuring Jake and his buddy Lucas on this movie, Crimes of the Future, by David Cronenberg, which I'll say first and foremost, I watched this movie while like eating dinner after work, and it's kind of gross a lot of times.
Vigo's body is open, and you're eating Trader Joe's food.
And I will also say, I very much respect this movie. I very much respect David Cronenberg. But I'm also not a guy who tends to be into a lot of the kinky sex movies that there are out there. I'm not as into those as much as others, even though I respect them and I respect the craft of what they're doing in them. I don't like, that's not I know there's a wide genre of that, especially like in weird horror stuff. And it's like, while I've seen some of them and I respect them, they're not always like, I wouldn't say it's a genre where I'm always like looking for it.
It's totally understandable.
But like then there's movies like Frankenhooker, which is a kinky sex movie, which I definitely like a lot, for sure. And John and I talked about a lot of these during the horror month,
horror comedies.
But Crimes of the Future is like definitely very unique and definitely one of the more respectable movies that came out of this year, just in terms of like of prestige and stuff. Like it's David Cronenberg, and it's like, yeah, it's very good and also not entirely my thing at the same time. But while I will say this, there's movies like Paul Verhoeven's Benedetta, which a lot of people really respected and liked, that I did not like.
You did not like it at all.
At all. But Crimes of the Future, I will say I liked. Benedetta, I did not like at all. That was not my my vibe, Benedetta. But I put it in like similar, like Verhoeven and Cronenberg are like guys that they're older, they've been around, they've already made so many crazy movies, but they still are like pushing the envelope and doing more and getting just even weirder and weirder by film. And they're really doing a lot with the medium and they have a lot to say. So that's like, I would definitely, I just respect Crimes of the Future for that.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys both watched this one actually prior to this list, because we did a review and I think it was back in September, and it was hard to see that movie for a long time. And I think it dropped on Hulu. So people are getting more exposure to it, which is great. And yeah, like you said, it's going to be like much higher on my list because I absolutely love the movie. So I'll have a lot to say, but yeah, not really clicking with everybody, the movie. Absolutely. And partly because it's so grotesque and so provocative with its imagery and content. But I'll say that I think Cronenberg is in a stage in his career where he's not too concerned with plot and necessarily connecting to people's perception and how movies are supposed to be. I think I kind of like how at his old age, he really lets his movies breathe and just kind of live in this world and this sort of futuristic mystery plot line that's not necessarily that it's not really the draw of the movie. It's more the vibes and it's more of the archetypes and the characters he's kind of presenting to you and the ideas. So yeah, definitely one of the more challenging movies that I'll talk about more. And obviously if you want to, we have a review and that we did way back.
Right. Which was the first ever non-John and Luke episode of the Cinebums. And it was I remember I listened to it in full and I was like, this is very refreshing to not hear myself on this podcast yakking up a storm with John.
I thought it was also very refreshing to not hear you, Luke. I thought so too. No, but Crimes of the Future just missed my list too. And I feel like I'm similar to Luke in the sense too, I'm not always into that sort of like a weird, grotesque, like sex fetish stuff that, in these types of movies. And even some of like the sort of gross out stuff too. I think I tend to be drawn more to it if it's like used in a comedic way or like playful or humorous. But yeah, I still really, really liked it. And I'm glad that there are people like Cronenberg out there still making like specifically their like own like genre or brand of movies that is just weird, different, and so like distinctly like one artistic vision. So yeah, definitely he's definitely like a director that I feel like anyone should just will be like compelled, anyone who is interested in movies like we are would be compelled to just see what he's cooking up. So yeah, definitely glad we got to talk about it. Well, this one I kind of feel bad as to how low this is on my list, and it's not because there's so many movies that you guys that are ahead of this that you guys would probably roll your eyes at, but I think this is just like a personal preference of enjoyment of a movie. There's no criteria in terms of like quality of film, because my number 2022 is Tar. Which I know we'll talk about in part 1 of this episode.
Very in my head with that movie right now.
Yes. Yeah. And I watched it last weekend, I think, and I still need some time to like really contemplate, the whole message and theme of the movie, which I think this is like a perfect time for a movie like this. But everybody's talking about the obvious cancel culture aspect of this movie, and I think it's a really great character study on that aspect of just the world we live in right now, and just observing a person going through this who can't come to terms themselves with it. But yeah, I mean, I feel like this is probably Cate Blanchett's Oscar Oscar to lose in a way. I feel like she'll be a big favorite for that. Not that I can think of off the top of my head, can't think of other performances, which I know there are, but yeah. I mean, she was great in it. A really just intelligent, thoughtful look into a scenario like this that I think is really honest, and it doesn't sugarcoat anything about what this is, sort of how society has started to keep these like big genius artistic people in check for some of the shitty things that they can do as people.
Right.
And I think this is one that I'm just maybe I think it's such a well-made film, but I just maybe wouldn't revisit it as much because some of that it reminds me, especially in the beginning, it reminded me a lot of just like these like Jordan Peterson interviews or something. This person who's just so up their own ass that it's like insufferable to listen to them. But I think that was, just brilliantly done here. So obviously, but I'm just sort of talking about the things that make me not want to like revisit it as much.
You don't want to like live in this like snobby, really like very ultimate snobby world, basically. Right.
Yeah. And this is all just to justify why it is lower on my list, but still obviously one of my favorites of the year. And I know we'll talk about it down the road too.
Definitely.
Yeah, I personally liked the snobbiness because I felt it gave, as like a script vehicle, it allows like really just well-written dialogue and well-written scenes to come out mainly. I love living in like very not down to earth, snarky, kind of like people who are way too smart and up their own ass. Like she's very up her own ass in a way, but it creates these like great scenes where they like how in like Steve Jobs, there's a lot of just banter that like comes out as just like written so well that you're like, okay, no one would have said that like organically, you know what I mean? But I love heightened dialogue and heightened worlds, which is what I feel like this movie is at a lot of the times.
Yeah. And I think those like the pretentious snob stuff is totally necessary for
right. But I can also see definitely this movie was like dark and like fucked up a lot of times. So I was, as I stated, I started my day with it, and it's rainy here too on top of that. So, and like, but I think this film's a masterpiece at the same time. Yeah. Jake loaned me the DVD. And it's a good one to own. Yeah. The menu specifically is very like,
oh really
minimal. You haven't watched it yet?
I have not. I literally got it in the mail like the day before I gave it to you. So
the menu is very fitting for the movie specifically. It's like very minimal and artsy, and also kind of scary. It's kind of I really like Tar for sure.
I'm gonna save all my thoughts because it's really, really high on my list. So
I know
it's high on my list too.
I'm glad
this episode we're going to talk about it for sure. Yeah.
I'm glad you checked it out though, because it's a challenging and somewhat punishing watch. So I'm glad you bit the bullet there.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Can't wait to talk about that. Speaking of challenging and punishing, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this film, but This is a film straight to Shudder, so it's a genre picture. It's a somewhat of a horror thriller. It's called Resurrection, starring Rebecca Hall and Tim Roth. And
okay.
This is a really, really wicked, fun thriller. Basically about actually has some weird similarities to Tar in some respects. It's about sort of an upper class woman played by Rebecca Hall, who, by the way, one of the best performances of the year. She's insanely great. She kind of is ultra paranoid mother who has a really high paying job. And I don't want to spoil too much because this movie unravels in such a fascinating way. But Tim Roth is some figure from her past, and he sort of just shows up and starts kind of like knocking down this house of cards that she sort of built for herself to sort of protect her ego and her daughter and all these really personal things. And the way this sort of unravels is just a brilliant sort of cat and mouse game between Tim Roth and Rebecca Hall. And you guys mentioned grotesque body horror. There's a little bit of that sprinkled into this movie, so it kind of elevates it to more of a genre movie. But yeah, this was just a great, fun, somewhat bleak, very bleak watch. And if any of you guys have Shudder out there, it's free on there. But it's definitely worth a rental. It's the performances are just top notch. The filmmaking is really unique, really distinctive, kind of like you were saying about Tar. And it's just sort of about this bravado of being a woman in 2022 and sort of the sacrifices you have to make to maintain your sanity and make sure you're safe in this kind of just punishing, changing world that we live in. So yeah, Resurrection is a really, really fun little thriller if you're looking for that.
Nice. I don't think I've even heard of this one.
Nah, me neither.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Yeah.
But it sounds good. I mean, Rebecca Hall and Tim Roth
is such a slimy, creepy. It's like some of the best work he's done like in forever. So if you're a fan of those guys, you know, as performers, I'd highly recommend it.
I forgot that like Shudder has its own like originals too.
Yeah.
I missed the days. I remember in like during the height of COVID, they had some like special deal on Shudder, and I got it for a year, and I missed that. Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah.
cool.
I might remember you reporting on like, I watched this on Shudder.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, John's watching Shudder sometimes.
Yeah. It's now there's just so many streaming services, obviously. But yeah, I do miss all the cool lesser known stuff that's on Shudder. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. My number 22 is Pixar's Turning Red.
Nice.
Which is a good one. It's like them continuing to expand on a lot of different things in human and child, specifically this one, childhood, psychology, and just also very like them all continuing to push the progressive side of all these things that they want to basically, you know, really feeding, you know, directly, but just like a good message for the new generation and good things for kids to grow up with. Yeah, I'm not like, as a guy who grew up in the 90s, Pixar movies are, you know, while still of high quality and very good for the world, they're fairly different.
Yeah.
So I don't like these. I'm not as high on these as other people. I don't think they're like ones I will watch over and over again. Whenever I do watch them, I do think they're like very good, and that they're always trying something different and expanding. Yeah,
I like these.
I think
these new
Jake.
Pixar. Yeah, and I agree that like from like 94 and Toy Story to like late 2000s, that was like the golden age of just nonstop banger after banger.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that Turning Red specifically and Luca, like they're very much personal stories to the directors and writers involved. Like they're very, to see that translated to such high quality and such quote unquote prestigious animation, like That's pretty great to see. And Turning Red for me personally is probably my favorite of that new generation of like Soul and Luca and all that stuff. So yeah, I like it too.
Yeah, I'd say it's up there for me. I liked it more than Soul. Felt a little more like just
Yeah,
personal
more
and subtle
subtle.
than
Yeah.
Soul. For sure.
Different tone too. It's more of like a high energy anime sort of tone, which is
Right,
cool.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this also just barely missed my list too,
Same.
but yeah, it's still like Pixar is still, they're not doing maybe the most like memorable movies like they, the golden age of Pixar, I guess, but it's still like the most highbrow, like intelligent of these family animated movies. And so, yeah, I really like Turning Red too.
Yeah, beautifully animated as always. Like it
Mm-hmm.
looked just incredible.
And don't they also have that next one coming up in their trilogy? It's like kind of a trilogy of like
Oh
how does
yeah.
that trailer go, Jake? You would know as the more avid moviegoer, but it kind of ends and she's like, I'm like they introduce each other and they both represent a certain
Yeah.
like feeling or something like that. And
It's
I don't
more
know,
of a
just
like broad, really specific emotions that they're kind of tapping into.
Yeah,
And it takes
exactly.
place in like a really colorful, like fantasy world. I haven't
Yeah.
read that much into it, but the trailer, like the animation looked sick. So I'm into it.
Yeah, they're very consistent with their like agenda and mission right now with
Yeah.
Pixar, which is cool.
They're sort of tackling just different facets of childhood psychology, which is cool. I'm there for that,
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I have two back to back here that I'm gonna tie together, partially for the sake of brevity, also because
Oh, cool.
it's 1 year and we had a movie come out and then a prequel to that movie also come out. So yeah, 21 and 20 for me are X and Pearl, the
Nice.
Ty West movies. And I'm also very excited to see Maxine, the third movie in this world that'll come out in 2023, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is sort of, I guess, Ty West and Mia Goth's sort of creative project together. And Jake, I'm sure you have a lot to say about it. I know you're our horror expert on the Cinebums here, but X I thought was really interesting story. Both of these movies are kind of like nostalgic for like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, these like older horror films, and just older, CinemaScope, whatever, as well. But I thought these both have like sort of distinct looks and feels to them, but they're in this sort of same world about Pearl. And I just found them to both be like really refreshing and familiar, but also like they're doing something new that is I think unique, and both very like fun types of horror movies too. And Pearl was almost not as much of a horror movie, but doing something really interesting with this character that they created too, and really just showing how she becomes sort of obsessive with herself and like sexuality, and it just totally is just a perfect prequel to how you can then see why her character is the way she is in X, where she's like fucking the scarecrow in the beginning. sorry spoilers there, but I really enjoyed both of these, and especially, I mean, Pearl, I just loved the way it was shot too. Just the colors are just popping so well, and even both, there's just so many. The cinematography in both of these I found really interesting too.
Yeah, totally.
And it's really just mostly this one location too, but still we're able to make it really interesting. And Mia Goth is incredible, both as her character in X and playing the older Pearl and then the younger Pearl in Pearl.
Unreal. Yeah,
I thought she was really great. And So yeah, I'm excited to see the third one come out this year.
Yeah, Maxine. Yeah, these fuck again. Both Pearl's my number 27 and X is in the 30s somewhere. And I really, really enjoyed both of those movies. I don't know if you guys have saw House of the Devil, which is Ty West's like sort of breakout
I've
movie.
seen that. I haven't
Yeah.
seen these.
Yeah, that was
I've
really
seen
good
that.
too.
Yeah, you've seen that. That's one of my favorite horror movies of the century. So I've been a fan of Ty for a while. So to see him come out with like 2 consecutive A24 produced horror movies that kind of give him free reign to do like you said, like that Grindhouse Texas Chainsaw kind of crowd pleasing slasher in the first one, and then the second one go full on character study with like a cinemascope look. It's just really refreshing to see not only an original horror trilogy, but one where the timeline's out of order and like it kind of informs you about certain things when you rewatch them. Like it's a cool little world that Ty West has built. So, and like you said, Mia Goth is borderline Oscar worthy for Pearl, if you ask me. So, glad you brought those up because I definitely was dying to talk about them.
They're not going to be on yours.
No, they both just missed it, dude. They're both great.
The thing I hear about these a lot, even though I haven't seen them yet, and makes me feel like I really should watch them, is when people say, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's always Boogie Nights meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah,
or
that's
something. Maybe you told me that once, John.
That's
too.
what X is. Yeah.
I think we
so
talked
when
about
I hear,
X at
when
some
I hear
point
that,
last year.
I'm like, oh shit, I should really watch that. I'll get there.
It's got Kid Cudi as the porn star and Jen Ortega. Yeah, the cast is great.
Great ensemble in X. Yeah,
absolutely.
And then Pearl is like very much carried by Mia Goth, but man, I most recently saw Pearl like just in the past couple weeks, but
nice.
I don't know, just the look of it, her
gorgeous.
look too, just and the very end, this isn't really spoiling anything, but it's just the very end, that look that she has on her face and they just stay on her.
The smile. Yeah.
That is it's just like the perfect way to end that.
It is.
Yeah. I feel like just because I feel like these types of movies don't get the like awards buzz that they probably deserve. But so I feel like Mia Goth is definitely, like you said, deserves any acting accolades that you could get, but she'll probably be overlooked.
And she has that like 10 to 12 page monologue right before that. Just a one shot on her kind of just spilling her guts to her cousin or something. It's just
sister-in-law.
Just mind-boggling how good it is. And I've seen a lot of comparisons that are valid for Pearl, comparing them to like John Waters movies, like those 70s and 80s kitschy horror movies about sort of middle of America and kind of commenting on just the absurdity of living in small town America. So if you like that sort of stuff, you're going to love Pearl.
Yeah. And I also just had to add, I talked a little bit about like the cinematography, but there's some like wide shots in both of these movies that are just some of the coolest things that I've seen this year. I don't know, just thinking, I always think back on in X when there's that scene where the alligator is like slowly like weaving through the water while she like just jumped in, or
the bird's eye shot when you kind of see the entire landscape. Yeah. Insane.
Yeah. There are just so many shots like that where, it's just super wide and what's happening is like really small, but it just gives you like these perfect, like tense moments.
Totally. Yeah.
So that's my 21 and 20.
That's cool that you got them back to back like that. Which one is 20 and which one's 21?
I honestly went back and forth. Right before we started, I put Pearl just ahead of X, but that could be, recency bias.
Exactly.
I just watched it, but I really think they're like interchangeable. That's why I also wanted to put them like back to back too, because
it's a good call.
I think I liked them both equally. But yeah,
I'd agree with that. Nice.
It shows they're each their own thing. Basically, they're like it's their one piece basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very different from each other.
Yeah.
In a way too, but yeah.
Mia
I mean,
Mia Goth is sort of the through line. Like her presence kind of just makes it feel as one, if that makes sense, just because that character is so rich, you know. But yeah, I'll do my number 21. We talked about this on our best theater experiences of the year. This is an early one, but still sticks out. Jackass Forever, which again, it could be higher in another year because this movie is just the best. I think it's hard to like intellectualize the Jackass movies and really say anything really smart about them or anything like that, but the reason I love this movie so much is because you do feel like I love the emotional attachment that these guys have for each other. I think is really special. And this movie kind of felt like, I don't know, like it's like a high school reunion or something. And these guys are just kind of connecting on the past and sort of all the crazy shit they've done for fame and all of obviously the trials and tribulations with drug addiction and Ryan Dunn passing away. So, and like having watched these movies over the years and when I was younger, of course, we do have like deep rooted love for all these guys, despite what you're just watching them do is like straight up revolting and disgusting. But this movie, of all the Jackass movies, like I felt, just so connected to all those guys in such a deep way. And that might sound ridiculous, but I don't know. And of course, you got the new cast was just fantastic. Eric Andre showed up for a few segments, which was great. And I forgot the girl's name, but she was fantastic. Jasper and his dad were so great together with the whole the whole spider bit. And this movie had some of the best stunts of any, like maybe since Jackass 2, which is like the best one for stunts, but this one had like the cannonball and they had the treadmill thing where you literally see them like break bones on it and like get like scars immediately. So yeah, I have a deep love for this movie, and I'm sure you guys share that love because this is like a movie that I wish in another world could get like a Best Picture nomination or something because it just brought everybody together.
Yeah, I'll try to intellectualize the Jackass movies real quick. So I feel like there's something psychologically, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but
right.
I'll say like when you're watching just people who don't give a fuck and like doing that, like there's something about people hurting each other for that is for your benefit. It makes you feel, I don't know, less like worried about the little things and stuff like that. There's just something about watching these stunts that's very therapeutic, I think. And watching these guys who are just who get off on just doing these crazy things. And I think each movie kind of has that same mission. And like, I don't know, I feel like they have that mission of like freeing people from concern. And this movie, as they're doing it, each movie kind of ups the ante in a way. And like, to see them do it again, I just was like, just so great. And it's like very triumphant to watch them do it. And like to make so many people like laugh and forget about things for a while. Like they're just, what they do is like really great. And I like, not for myself, but I believe in what they do to themselves. I would never, for me, I believe in watching what they do.
Yeah. I think like a big reason we watch obviously is because of the crazy shit that they do, but we also like the characters, like these people we care about. And we see like in this one way more than the other ones, I think, is just you see like the camaraderie and the love they have for each other.
Yeah.
Which
is like a sweetness to it,
Yeah. It's like heartwarming, like I cared so much about this guy who they call Poopies. He's like, he's such like, I don't know, just a likable guy. Like, like you said, all the new people were great too. And, but like, even, something goes wrong and they're all checking on Johnny or whatever to make sure he's okay. Like they really care. They want to do something really, they want to up the ante and do something crazier than they've ever done, but they also still like care about how everyone feels about it, and just yeah, I think just seeing the camaraderie between them is really nice too. It's just nice to escape and see these crazy lunatics do these ridiculous things.
Yeah.
But it's not. There's no what's the word I'm trying to think of? There's no like cynicism behind it.
Mhm.
No,
and
yeah, somehow, yeah, it's like very uplifting always.
yeah. No matter they're kicking, they're
it's like,
rolling a bowling ball at
yeah,
their friend's
yeah,
nutsack,
because
but
they
it's
create
still
such a fun environment. They
yeah.
really are. Yeah, they create such a fun environment out of it.
And our generation has really like grown up with these guys too. Like
Hmm.
Totally.
Yeah.
when we could
Hmm.
first like watch sort of like dirtier things on TV, or that's when
Right.
like
It was one
Jackass
of
the
the
show
first
was on.
things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it
So
was
yeah.
MTV in its heyday. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
rewatching the first two movies. Like, those clips were just everywhere. I remember, like, everyone was showing each other like clips. Like, I remember like Steve-O hooking his mouth and stuff. Like, people would show you, and you just get
Yeah.
completely freaked out by it. So yeah. And I think it's great that they came back to do. I don't know how much more we're gonna get from these guys, but just the fact that they lay it on the line and create, just up the ante creatively for how they're gonna keep fucking themselves up. It's just so, like you said, heartwarming and just really wonderful to see. So, and just a
Yeah.
great time at the theater as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it was such a great scale of just like how many stunts there were and how crazy they all were. They really do shoot a lot of stuff in order to get it down to where
Yeah.
the final product, and to have that many just great stunts in a row that kind of all have a eventual flow and an end to it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I meant by intellectualizing. Like, there is a rhythm to these movies that works. Just, I don't know
Right.
how the fuck they do it.
Right.
Like, the way they
There's a
string
weird
things
like
together.
narrative through line
Yeah.
to it almost.
Because, like what John said about of Johnny getting hurt, like there's a real emotional like moment in that movie that kind of takes you out of the stunts, and that creates like a different rhythm in the movie. So there's like little stuff like that, and seeing them just talk behind the scenes and stuff. So yeah, it was a special one. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Glad we talked about it. It's worthy of this list.
Absolutely.
My number 21 is Deep Water.
Hell yeah.
With Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas and Lil Ray Howery.
I forgot
Directed
about this
by.
one.
I
Yeah,
forgot
that's understandable.
what little Rel was in this. I forgot what the hell. I totally forgot about that.
I forgot about that too until I read it, but I thought by reading Lil Rel Howery out would make it feel
Oh yeah, he's
more
Ben's,
worthy of
yeah.
my number 21, I guess.
Helps the clout.
Yeah. But like in all, yeah, exactly. But in I enjoyed this movie. I really I kind of just what it was doing, I kind of got it. I was like, wow, this is like the most disgusting piece of shit couple ever, to the point of it being comical. And I thought it was funny, just how absurd the whole situation in Deep Water is between this couple. And I thought on top of that, they picked a great couple of doing it. Like Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas is a very absurd couple.
Real life couple. For a while.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's
yeah.
why
were
they got
they?
At the time. Yeah.
They got casted while they were a couple, yeah, and then they broke up. So now it's just weird.
That is very weird. This movie is also very weird. on top of it, all the entire plot line and situation going on here. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. I thought Affleck and Ana de Armas are both very good in it.
Sexy. They're both sexy.
Yeah, it's sexy, and I guess it's a little kinky, so I take back what I said.
This is the kink Isla, yeah.
I love kinky then. But yeah, I don't have much more to say about it. I saw it a while ago.
Had a good time.
It. Yeah.
Adrian Lynn this was kind of like a throwback to those like early 90s really sleazy romantic thrillers. Like Adrian Lynn did like Fatal Attraction and like Unfaithful and that sort of stuff. So this movie was like kind of felt like a point in time, like those early, you know, Basic Instinct or something like that. Just these really just awful people having sex with each other for different selfish reasons. So
Gotcha.
Yeah, I had a good time with it too. Like most people hated that movie, but I had a really fun time watching it as well.
Also remade Lolita.
Yeah, sleazy, like I said. Yeah.
Yeah, sticks to what he knows.
Hell yeah.
And Jacob's Ladder. Jacob's Ladder seems like a left turn with the rest of his
that movie is very dark. Yeah.
All right.
We're in the 20s.
Oh, okay, 20s. So yeah, Pearl was my 20. So yeah, I yield my
so
time.
back to Jake.
Oh, okay.
I yield
my time. Okay.
Senator.
We're getting to the really good shit now.
I kind of had complaints about a lot of my movies as I realized it.
Yeah. My number 20 is Barbarian, which freaking rules. I love that movie. It's a great horror movie with brilliant escalation of the plot and of the intrigue and everything going on. It's a movie that preys on a lot of our deepest fears, kind of the unknown and the Airbnb location sort of thing. And that starts off as like a very relatable kind of prism for the movie. And it kind of delves into just whatever the hell it wants. And that's why I love that movie. The performances for horror movies, like the performances are just extremely memorable, especially my man Justin Long, who I'm sure has gotten a lot of love on this podcast before because you guys did the Accepted episode. To see him back in acting form in a movie this bad shit and bananas was definitely a big treat. And this movie, like more than most movies this year, psychologically fucked with me more than a lot of other movies. And just in the fact that you just don't know what's going to happen in this movie. Like it's so subversive. And some of the best tunnel shots in cinema, in my opinion, some of the most eerie, terrifying.
Those are the tunnel shots to me. Yeah.
They're like just so unsettling. And I'm seeing this. I don't know if you guys had the pleasure of seeing this in the theater, but the initial build up for the lead character as she goes down into the tunnel the first time. I looked around in the theater and most people were just clenching and like not watching the screen because it was so unsettling.
It was.
And it kind of builds to sort of a comedic absurdist payoff, which is like what John said. He kind of gravitates more to like the comedic parts of really, you know, fucked up imagery. And that's kind of what it was for me. And then one of the best hard cuts in cinema of the year to Justin Long driving in Los Angeles and he gets canceled. It's just one of the most enjoyable movie experiences I had of the year. So I had to put it in the top 20.
Yeah, this is definitely this is also on my list, a little bit higher up. Loved it too. I love the various different misdirections in it. That hard cut to Justin Long in LA is like, what is happening now?
What
like,
am I watching? Yeah,
totally new movie. But then I thought it perfectly like weaved itself together into the first part of the movie, and I thought it was a nice. This is like, I don't know, just like a nice original story again by like with Jordan Peele. This is also like sketch comedy guy coming to do horror.
Whitest Kids You Know.
Zach Krieger. And those tunnel scenes. I remember, I think Luke and I talked about this when we first saw Barbarian, but like the tape measure scene. I thought that was so creative and interesting.
It's both hilarious and doing the eye cover shit.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was doing both at the same time.
Yeah, Kreger has an amazing visual sense, like the mirror sort of peering into the dark space and like and you can't see it as well as she can, and then she uses the tape measure to sort of, and like it's just like it feels like there's boundless like space in front of her, and like that's really hard to pull off for, especially for like a first time director from comedy. It's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will say the only thing that would make the movie accepted better would be if there was a barbarian there.
Oh yeah,
in
when
the
they
school. Yeah.
he
to up
chases
the ante, you know, like
chases Lewis Black
Let's raise
down
the
the hall or
stakes here.
something.
Yeah.
be like,
That-
you know, it's Parents' Day. Bartleby's parents like, where are the kids? Find the tunnel.
they're
Dad,
in the
it's not a real
basement.
college.
Yeah.
It's not a real college. This
Yeah.
is this basement we just found.
There's a lady in the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I would love to see the accepted
That's a good
barbarian crossover. Maybe we'll pitch that to Zach Krieger.
That
and
just
see what he
makes sense.
thinks.
But yeah, we'll be talking about Barbarian more not a little sooner than the rest of the ones that Jake's brought up. So okay, so it's me now, number 20.
20.
All right.
Mhm.
My number 20 is also a very, at times, not as much as Barbarian, because Barbarian to me is the ultimate edge of your seat movie of this year almost.
Yeah.
But this movie gets pretty edge of your seat at times. It's Black Phone.
Oh, nice.
Which I will watch this past week during my cram. This movie is very good. It came out in June or July. I saw it this week. But it is very good, and I dug the whole concept of this, of like the abduction with the Black Phone, hearing kind of the spirits of all the kids who have been abducted here. Like this movie's based off a short story. I'm pretty sure if like you read the short story, that's probably I can see that being in like a literary form, like something like this, of just,
Yeah.
you know, the phone being a central piece. And I know there's like the very haunted nature of this abduction that makes it kind of different.
It feels like an R.L. Stein book I read like when I was in middle school, like sort of the dead kids being accessed through a phone, being kidnapped, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
And then his
interesting.
sister having that like the vision to that whole world and stuff like that. And then the fact that, you know, Ethan Hawke's like brother is there in the other house, and just like all the little subtle things that made this very unique and different. I really enjoyed it. It's very more than like scary. I would say this is just an interesting like take on like abduction. You know, I thought it was but not to say that Ethan Hawke isn't like very scary in this a lot of the times.
He definitely was. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, don't see his face really at all, if I remember.
Yeah. Definitely not. I like, and also the era it's in, the like the 70s or and the music and the vibe that it kind of gives to that.
Yeah.
I like the play on that as well.
Some Dazed and Confused needle drops in the movie, I remember.
Yeah,
there were some good needle drops. Yeah.
Fox on the Run. Yeah.
Also, I will say this: there's a lot of bullying this year in cinema. A lot of bullying, a lot of child-on-child bullying. And that's in this movie too.
Black Phone
had a couple others.
Yeah, some gnarly fight scenes with kids. I remember.
Yeah. There's a couple other bullying movies that we'll get to, but a lot of that in this movie.
Yeah, it's a good one.
We're on to 19.
Yep.
And this is one. I'm kind of regretting putting this one where it is, because the ones I just talked about on my list, I think I liked more. But and we already talked about this, so I won't say too much, but it's The Menu. I have The Menu at 19, ahead of Pearl, X, and Tar. But hey, it'd be boring, you know, if I just put Tar ahead of all those, you know.
I get the choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think after I was talking, I was like remembering everything about Pearl and X that I liked. And And then we were talking about the things about the menu, which
Yeah, and I had,
but
like I
it's
said, I had nothing but complaints about menu.
Yeah, that was just
My
us. So we were kind of
my
shitting
number
on it.
my number
it's still in the
24
top
film,
25.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still in the
It's,
top
it's a good
25.
movie. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, but I had a lot of fun with it. But I will say, like another movie that you also mentioned that I'll talk about later on my list, I felt like the ensemble was maybe underwhelming, but I did really like. I mean, I loved Ray Fiennes' performance in this. I thought he made it, and then I did like the Nicholas Hoult character and his, the relationship with Anya
Right,
Taylor
right.
Joy and that whole
Yeah.
reveal and just his pretentious,
Yeah.
just douchebaggery of who he was. And yeah. So I really enjoyed a lot of the dark comedy aspects of it too. And like I mentioned before, just the very blunt dryness of Ray Fiennes' character. Just, you will die. It's just like, I don't know. I found it really enjoyable.
It's like, you're not supposed to
yeah.
be here, but you will still have to
Yeah.
die.
Yes.
Just in a different
Yeah.
way.
I think he asked someone like, "Where did you go to college?" He's like, "Princeton." I'm sorry, you're gonna
Yeah.
have to die or so.
And he's like, student loans, and she's like, no,
That's what it was.
You
yeah,
will
yeah.
die. You will die. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
I
a great
like
bit,
that.
yeah.
Just I think there are other movies like this year too, where it's just these affluent people and just like shitting on them, and
Yeah.
that satire, taking a like realist look at these people. I enjoyed it, and yeah, I thought the ending was fun too. I'm glad what happened to Anya Taylor-Joy at the end. Like, I'm glad she had that moment, because
Great
she
final
was
shot.
really,
Yeah.
she was really fucked by the whole thing.
That wouldn't have been fair.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought the menu was an interesting movie, and I totally want to see more. I would see more stuff like it, just those dark comedies like it.
Totally.
So yeah. The more I talk about it now, the more I'm validating myself for putting it where it is.
You're
But
back in place. There you go.
yes, yeah, I feel good. So yeah, that's my number 19.
Good. Nice. My number 19 is another movie I don't know if y'all have heard of, but came out really early in the year. It's called After Yang.
Is
Directed-
that with
Heard
Colin
about
Farrell?
this one.
It's Colin Farrell, yeah. So this is directed by someone I really, really admire. Name is Kogonada, and he does a lot of like visual essays online, sort of classic film. And he's kind of he's more of like a visual artist. He's kind of transitioned into directing in the past few years, and this is sort of his follow up to Columbus, which is another great independent film that came out in like 2017. But this movie is really, really good. It's essentially about a family led by Colin Farrell, who's sort of like a tea expert, and he has a lot of great anecdotes about why tea is so great. And they sort of adopt an AI robot that used to be the brother of their young daughter, who is also adopted. So they want to replace that void in their adopted girl's life. But the robot, this isn't a spoiler because this is literally the beginning of the film. He kind of develops feelings for another girl and leaves. So the movie's kind of Colin Farrell trying to comfort his adopted daughter about loss, and also tried to find the robot. So it's a great little take on it. Kind of reminded me of like AI in a really, really, really less existential approach and much more calming. This movie is very zen and very beautiful and really quiet. And in terms of like, Colin Farrell is the best example to describe this tone, because he's locked into this very just humble and sort of comforting persona, which is a great sort of contrast to like, he played the Penguin this year and he was in Banshees of Inisherin, which is much more cutting edge. And this is just a movie that breathes, and it's really calming, and it's kind of a like Kogonada's like video essays that he puts online, like very therapeutic. And that's solely why the movie exists, and that's why I think it's great that it exists. And it's definitely more of an underrated movie that came out this year, and I hope people check it out, especially because Colin Farrell is getting all that Oscar buzz for Banshees, and this was another just great Colin performance.
Yeah, what a year for Colin Farrell.
Yeah, great year for Colin, and sort of that Colin sans, like there's a Brendan Fraser sans and the Makata sans, and now we got a Colin Farrell sans.
It's all these sanses.
Sans.
I've always been a Colin Farrell guy, obviously, and he always has been a great actor in terms of, like you're saying, like he like can create a vibe or a mood. Like he goes, if like you're trying to set a tone, like that's very specific for your movie. Colin Farrell's like a great guy to run that through.
Exactly.
So yeah, this sounds like definitely it would be my thing. So
you guys would both really enjoy it.
Yeah, I was liking everything you were saying about it. So yeah, I'm not familiar with this Kogonada guy at all either. So I want to just hear you talk about it, like his video essays too. It makes me want to check those out. He
has like things on Wes Anderson and Linklater and Kubrick, all on his Vimeo page, and I'll sometimes watch those videos when I'm like trying to relax or so. Big fan of that guy.
Cool.
So yeah.
My number 19 is Glass Onion. I like Glass Onion very much so. I don't like it as much as the first Knives Out, but I definitely like it, and I have no huge quarrels like with it. I thought I enjoyed the change of scenery. I like Edward Norton's very rich gong every whatever hour it is, like
the Philip Glass thing.
The thing was like Philip Glass designed it. Like I do like the new, and I like the new ensemble in this. I don't like it's definitely definitely moving it forward. I felt it was just more predictable than the first one, I think, a little bit.
I could agree, yeah.
Specifically, the Ana de Armas original, I guess you could say protagonist in this one that, is like, I believe that was a more, I don't know, like it was a great like surprise in the first one, and it also was, it just wasn't as easy to see coming, and I thought it was a more repressed, hidden, but like just very good, like hidden protagonist, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I agree. This is just slightly higher on my list, but totally agree. It didn't grip me as much as I love the original Knives Out, and I think you alluded to this a little bit earlier, but the ensemble really makes or breaks it, and the ensemble was so great in the first one. I loved all the characters. You could tell like what their purpose was, what their intentions and like motivations were. And this, I felt like everyone was a little more one note.
Pales a little bit more, just a little bit more. And I'll say it probably hurt that I didn't see this in a theater.
I was going to say, this is another one that played really well with the crowd. Like each.
I saw the first one in the theater.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
Glass Onion has a lot of like subversions, that kind of like to make you go, ha, and so there's a lot of people just kind of hawing together, which was great. And
I was hawing to myself. I was like, what am I doing?
And Daniel Craig just has so many great anecdotes in that movie that you're kind of just like knee slapping. So we're all knee slapping, it's that sort of group experience. Yeah.
Right.
Him and Hugh Grant are like a couple and stuff. Like that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, I'm not like, why did he make another one of these? I still like Ryan Johnson. Keep making more if you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I love the fact that it's like the perfect structure for a franchise, really, and gaining new ensembles and new locations and new plots. It's just a perfect setup, really.
Right.
Yeah.
I also listened to my first ever, like, and you guys probably have done this already. but my first ever Ryan Johnson like interview because
Mm.
he was on WTF, and
Yeah, it was a good interview.
Yeah.
a
Listen
lot
to
of
that too.
people. There's
Yeah.
a lot of people who really like Ryan Johnson. Then there's all those like bros who are like, Ryan Johnson's like so weird. You know what I
Last
mean?
Jedi stuff.
Yeah, the last.
Yeah, exactly. The bros like Ryan Johnson's like such a nerd, and I'm like, and I listen to it. I'm like, I like Ryan Johnson, and I definitely could see why they're like, he is definitely a nerd, but
Very
I like
nerdy,
it,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's very nerdy, but like in a way I really like, and I'm like, and I want nerds like Ryan Johnson to be directors. They should be.
He's
Yeah.
very
That's what
like enduring, just
Yeah.
because he just
yeah,
goes for it every time, and he doesn't really give a shit about the reception of anything, and just kind of does his own thing and creates his
Yeah.
own project.
Yeah.
So I'm a
Yeah.
fan. Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen some like criticisms of his just comedic taste or like
Yeah,
the humor in some of them, which I get
can see
like
it.
it is a little
Yeah.
dorky or
Mhm.
maybe easy, but yeah, it's also endearing, like you said, Jake. Like yeah, he just seems like a very down to earth normal guy making these movies that that people want to see, and that yeah, I think he's not this like crazy auteur psycho creative guy that's gonna make these things to really divide audiences. Like yeah, I like what he's doing, and I want to see 1,000 more of these Daniel Craig Knives Out movies.
Yeah,
they'll
to
always
see
be
him
fun.
back is so good, and I
Yeah.
remember, and it's so great
So
when
good.
he's like immediately like he gets in Edward Norton's like crazy office, and he's immediately like picking apart the plot of the mystery, and and once it starts, I'm like, oh, here we go. I love like like I love this.
Yeah.
His dialogue's almost like musical the way he delivers it, because it's just such
Yeah.
a funny, hilarious rhythm to the way he just like when he starts deconstructing the mystery, you're just like, all right, here we go, and you kind of lean in. So he's always been like the saving grace to like keep these movies afloat, in my opinion. And Ryan, of course, Ryan's
For
such a
sure.
great craftsman
For sure.
too. So
Mhm. All right. So now we are on to 18. My number 18. This was like maybe the first 2022 movie I saw. But it's Kimmy, the Steven Soderbergh movie.
That is my
Maybe-
number 18, John.
nice.
Oh.
Yeah.
Synergy. Yeah, nice.
Okay minds think alike.
Yeah. I wouldn't say great, but yeah. This might have came out in January 2022.
Yeah.
Or it came out very early, and kind of like not with a whole lot of like
It's low key, like it's
promo,
low key
marketing.
released. Yeah.
It was straight to HBO Max, I think, without like any
Yeah, right.
previews or anything.
I kind of like that about Soderbergh too. He just does things, and he's not.
I like how he doesn't market himself.
Yeah, that is a cool thing to not.
Well,
I
yeah,
know
and
so-
like to
I
not
understand
worry
it's
about
necessary.
it. He keeps
Yeah.
his nose. I'm gonna make another one, no problem. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
I understand
Yeah.
it's necessary for a lot of people. Like you have to, but yeah, I just kind of like he just seems like he does what he wants to do, and it's always like interesting or different. And I think we talked about this early on too after it came out.
Yeah.
But I really liked Kimmy. It is like a low key Hitchcockian sort of mystery
Hitchcock
thriller.
De Palma,
Yeah,
but modern because like
Modern,
the
yeah.
computer hacking stuff,
Yeah,
and the fact
yeah.
how obsessive she is with being indoors, and
yeah.
like
And it like married the like where there's like some movies like that Anne Hathaway one. I don't know, some like COVID
yeah,
movies.
that terrible
like,
movie.
I don't want to like we lived through that like we're
Right.
still living through that. I don't want to see that shit. But this
Right.
it took like the real aspect of it of like a lot of us, almost everybody probably has a little bit of agoraphobia getting back into like the real world. And I know I did once I had to stop working from home. Like
Yeah.
totally just like I have to drive 20 minutes now. Like that seems insane to me
Yeah.
after spending so much time at home. So yeah, and I thought that really the character of Kimmy, that was really portrayed well through her. And just a good, interesting interesting movie that I'm glad there are people like Steven Soderbergh making just sort of whatever they want like this.
Today is actually the date of this recording is actually Steven Soderbergh's birthday. So happy birthday to the man who never
There's
takes
your number.
breaks.
You get number 18. Steven.
Yeah, congratulations.
That's so fitting though, because most of his movies, if you were to rank them in a year, it'd be like in the
always
top,
there.
18
like right
or
there.
yeah,
I always
yeah.
like him just as much as this. Like I like this one.
The
I always
man's
know how much I'm
consistent.
gonna like him.
He's so
Yeah.
consistent. It's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his next movie, there's a chance it could be in my top 5 when it
Magic
comes
Mike,
out. Yeah, because that movie looks very like very courageous and heroic for sure.
It's capping a trilogy, so there's gonna be a lot of nothing is left out on the stage.
Yeah, but yeah, Kimmy, man, like on top of the fact that, like as we said, it's relatable to agoraphobia, which we talk a lot about on this podcast. It's like in
That's
Charlie
the main
Brown.
theme. Yeah.
You have agoraphobia? Do you think you have agoraphobia?
Yeah, right.
But like not on top of being like a very relatable, like a movie that you can somewhat relate to. If you're a person who has trouble leaving the house at times in the modern age. On top of that, it works very well in like just the thriller with thriller genre conventions that we were talking about with Hitchcock and De Palma. So it's like that dual threat that Kimmy has, which is why I liked it so much.
Soderbergh's been always really good at portraying paranoia, especially like with Contagion and like Unsane and movies like that, because there's like a minimalist style he has that kind of translates well to that alienation feeling, I feel like. And I think he heavily relates to people like that because he's like a recluse, just man who's obsessed with the craft of films and watches. I don't know if you guys see, he always publishes a list of the movies and TV shows he watches every year. And it's always just obscene. He watches like 2 movies a day while making other movies. So he's just a fascinating guy. And I like how it translates to his movies.
Yeah, definitely. He's a filmmaking hero always. We always sing the praise of that guy on here and in life, I feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is it going to be on your list, Jake, Kimmy, or are we speaking for it?
No, you guys are it's
sometimes I gotta just ask because I don't know if it's like I don't know. Is even Glass Onion? Is it coming up on your list?
No. Those are
look at
those are late.
Man.
Those are late 20s. Those are late 20s movies. Yeah.
Glass Onion's like in my 90s.
I'll just say that
out of 342. Yeah.
So many movies you guys have talked about like are in my 25 to 35 range. So
it's like all right.
All of ours are Jake's honorable mentions.
Yeah. There's
my
a few
top 10. His top 10, we won't have seen a single one.
Yeah.
Never even heard of it.
Yeah. Just, man.
Top Gun Maverick is 125.
Yeah.
Because it's a piece of shit. All right. So, yeah, that's number 18.
I'll do mine now since you guys, that was yours, right, Kimmy?
That's both of our number 18.
Collective.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of singing praises for the craftsman, Michael Bay came out with a movie this year called The Ambulance.
Ambulance
with Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, and my vote for best actor, Jake Gyllenhaal, portrayed Danny Sharp.
You're actually,
no, I'm kidding.
Okay, I was gonna say
if I were to make
the bummy.
That's my bummy list of most coked out self-referential performance of the year. Jake Gyllenhaal in Ambulance. Unironically, I think this movie is just incredibly well crafted. The drone shots are just the shit, like obviously overused, self-indulgent, but that's what Michael Bay does. I think this is like, if you look at his movies, this is like the first time in a very long time he kind of stripped down his sensibilities, and that's saying something because Ambulance is a lot, tonally, but it's just nice to see him go back to his roots like The Rock or Bad Boys and make a really simplistic kind of buddy movie and set it against the backdrop of LA and the craziness of the streets of and highways of LA and the uncertainties of all of that stuff was really fun. And yeah, it's just a great time at the theater, and I laughed my ass off throughout most of this movie just because of how I was talking to Lucas because he brought this up for his best theater experiences, and he was like, "Yeah, the craft aside, the main reason I love this movie is because every single character interaction inside the ambulance is just insanely over the top and ridiculous, which it is, and mostly that's anchored by Jake Gyllenhaal's performance, which just never lets up." And yeah, I don't know if this will be higher or lower on your guys' list, but at one point this was like my number one, like you said about Marry Me, it was like Ambulance was my number one movie because this was like a March movie or something like that. So, but I'll sing the praises of Ambulance for forever.
Didn't make my list, but yeah, an enjoyable movie nonetheless.
Yeah, Ambulance is coming up actually pretty soon on my list.
Oh, shit. Yeah, and you know, we had two very nostalgic, you know, kind of 90s, I guess Top Gun is more so late 80s, but have these kind of nostalgic action movies that we don't get a lot. And you know, Top Gun obviously the better movie, but you know, Ambulance is a welcome contributor to the lost art of the action movie. And
yeah, I definitely felt I was living in the 90s when this movie came out, because I felt like, oh yeah, you know, like things like Speed or like
Face Off or you know, John Woo stuff, you know.
Yeah,
even The Rock at times.
Yeah, definitely The Rock. And I love a never-ending kind of driving hostage situation in LA. It's like it's a genre that can be done over and over again if you kind of just know how to make it fun. And yeah, that's really it. It just has to be fun. And yeah, Gyllenhaal like really brings it in this one and was definitely having fun making this movie. And I very much just love, like we're talking about the drone shots. The drone, there's the most like kind of like it's cool but like douchey final drone shot of like just the skyline of downtown Los Angeles that is so like corny but so Michael Bay that like it works at the very end of like just something he would do totally in a movie.
Yeah, just the lens flares blinding you in the face, and you're
just caps it off like so perfectly of what this movie is. And I'm just thankful that and we'll get to more of them later, that blockbuster movies like these are still being made, and and people are seeing them and liking them.
So that was 18. We're on a 17. And I'm gonna throw it back to Jake because my number 17 is Glass Onion. And for the sake of time, and also I feel like content with everything we said about Glass Onion before. That's my number 17.
Nice.
We're at that point in the episode.
We're at that point. I think
we've done that before.
Yeah.
I feel
so.
Yeah,
I'll throw it back to you, Jake.
Okay,
You're gonna
cool.
have to talk some more.
Let's go. Okay.
How are you gonna follow up that?
All that just flow of information. I don't know
take a breath if you need it. Yeah.
All right. So. Okay. Sorry, my Letterboxd buffering. Okay, my number 17 is a movie called On the Count of Three, which was directed by Gerard Carmichael, who he had a very big talk about, who had someone who had a really strong year. Obviously, he came out with Rothaniel, which is widely known as one of the best specials that's come out in a very, very long time, which I greatly enjoyed as well. And he hosted the Golden Globes the other night. And he's gotten a lot of just press because he came out and his stand-up's getting a lot more exposure, which is great. I'm a huge fan of him. But he directed a movie this year too, and it's really, really good. It's very, very dark sort of framing device for this movie, but it's basically about him and his best friend who are suicidal, and they make a pact that they're going to kill each other, or kill each other and shoot each other in the face after they spend a day together, just kind of tying up loose ends. So the movie is about suicide and kind of, that desire to sort of end your life. And, if you've seen Gerard Carmichael's stand up, it's very much, sort of his sensibilities. But this movie is
a dark comedy.
This movie, I was about to say, this movie is his dynamic with Chris Abbott, who's his best friend, because these guys, essentially their mission before they kill each other is to just get back at people that have fucked them over, party, and, just tie up loose ends in their lives, and it's done in a very realistic sort of tone. So it kind of amounts to a lot of dark comedy. Like there's a scene where Chris Abbott they're getting gas and he's just like, and they have guns obviously because they're going to shoot each other. He just decides to rob the gas station for no reason. And he's really bad at it because he's like this suicidal, vulnerable guy. Gerard Carmichael keeps getting calls throughout the day from Tiffany Haddish because like they're like exes, and she's kind of like screaming at him over the phone, and like they're just kind of both jaded, and there's like them set against like a really just hyperactive world. And it's a really, really insightful, fun, dark, beautiful, and also funny movie. So it kind of runs the gambit of emotions this year. And just being a big Gerard Carmichael fan, I'm glad he was able to make this movie, and you could tell he had a lot to get off his chest. So definitely recommend with caution, because there's a lot of suicidal themes throughout this film.
I remember hearing about this one a little bit, but totally forgot about it. Because I remember I watched a long time ago at this point now his new special where he came out and everything. Was like, I don't know, he's on a different level as sort of a performer. I remember like first hearing about it and being super interested because of just what he's been up to lately, but it totally fell off my radar since then. So yeah, cool. I'm glad it was on your list.
Yeah, to describe this movie's tone, it's kind of Safdie Brothers meets like George Carlin, Gerard Carmichael's sense of humor, So
wow, okay.
It is it's really good. It's a really great little movie, and
wow.
Some great people like JB Smoove shows up, Henry Winkler shows up. There's some great little cameos throughout too. So
holy shit.
Yeah. It's a great one.
It's officially the one, like, of all the ones I haven't seen, that's probably the one I'm most excited about.
You'd like it, yeah. It's on Hulu actually too, so
for free?
Yeah.
Ooh.
For free.
Perfect.
So that's my number 17.
All right, my number 17. I'm gonna do what John just did. It's Elvis. We talked about Elvis.
This is like Uno skip.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
No, reverse. No, Jay. No, it's reverse.
Yeah.
What if we did cards with our lists?
Yeah.
I'm gonna skip John. We're not gonna see your number 17.
Draw 4 on the Northman.
Yeah. Now this is
You're
a wild
talk
card.
about it 4 times.
That'd be that'd be a really fun gimmick there.
It's a wild card. I'm going to talk about a random number on my list. I'm going to talk about number 36 on my list.
That's Elvis for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There we go.
Oh, back at Elvis again.
Shit.
That's funny. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're at 16 then.
Yeah.
16.
Yes.
Well, my 16 is Barbarian. So Jake, I mean, Luke and I just keep skipping and go back to Jake. But here I will say Barbarian.
Anything to add?
I'm glad it exists, and
John's like, hell no, I got nothing to add.
I don't even like it that
about
much.
This shit. Yeah. I just put it here now just so we could skip my turn and go back to you. But yeah, I'm glad this movie exists. I think it was really fun and interesting, and this is a good year for movies. And and I think Barbarian exemplifies that. I don't even know
Is-
if
You know,
that's a
be
word.
another
Yeah.
good movie for a barbarian to be in there would be Die Hard.
The
Which-
Justin Long Die Hard.
Die Hard 4.
No, the first Die Hard.
So like
But I
wow,
guess
I thought you were
guess-
just
all
picking
right.
all Justin Long movies to have.
yeah, I guess the
Barbarian.
fourth one, but
it'd be
the,
funny to see Hans Gruber come face to face with the woman.
yeah,
and just,
exactly.
We are running
Yeah.
a heist.
And
You
the
have to
elevator
go.
shaft. Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought the original would be better because it's a contained location. Die Hard
Yeah.
4 is not contained. They're kind of going all over. I don't see how, unless barbarians add all the locations, but
I would be interested in seeing a barbarian in the Justin Long universe, like going the distance with Drew Barrymore. Maybe we
Yeah,
throw
yeah.
a barbarian
Yeah.
in there. Yeah.
Drew
Yeah,
Barrymore's
she's like-
like, what is that in the
Yeah.
basement?
This is like a
You-
barbarian. Oh my God. Yeah. She's breastfeeding us. Yeah, it's
We're really going the distance with this.
I've never made long distance work.
This
Especially
is the
with
weirdest
that.
Airbnb I've ever been in. Yeah, we gotta make that happen.
John, do you by chance? Because Jake and I have talked about this, but do you watch Drew Barrymore's daytime television show?
I have seen many clips of
The clips,
it.
yeah.
I actually I mean I think we've talked about this before too. We all really love Drew Barrymore.
Hell yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I find she's so just I don't know, down to earth. It seems
Childlike, she's
and
like a
relatable.
childlike sensibility to talk shows.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
Yeah, I've seen some clips of it. Yeah, I haven't seen like
it
any,
has
full episodes,
it
but
definitely
yeah.
has the psychotic nature of a daytime TV show. It's just with Drew Barrymore, so you're like, I'm down for it a little bit more. You're like,
Yeah.
I enjoy it, but yeah, I mean, still, good for her.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad
Love
she's
Drew, yeah.
sort of found a new. Yeah, I don't know. There's like a consistent thing for her to be like a part of that's in, the mainstream for
Like-
the mainstream audience. Because
Right, a positive show business thing for her.
Yeah, and she's had her own struggles and everything, but it seems like she's dealt with it really well. And she's just, for being like in a famous family too, she kind of and a child actor, I feel like she's just someone who's like really relatable to us normies, normal people out there. So yeah. Shout out to Drew Barrymore.
What movie was that about again?
We were talking about going the
Barbarian.
distance. And then
Oh, yeah,
like
going
to
the
go in the
distance,
distance. Yeah.
Oh, it's
yeah.
because of Barbarian. Yeah, I love it. I love those where you forget.
It's a fun
Yeah.
threat. Yeah, fun rabbit hole.
Okay, so that's number 16.
So yeah, I'll do mine.
But it's
then.
your number 16, Jake.
Yeah, it's I will talk
I thought
about
I was
mine.
up. I thought for sure I was up.
I've just been going back and forth with me for some reason, but
Yeah. When have I gone, guys? What is it? My turn.
so my number 16 is one of the premier blockbusters of the year, in my
I
opinion.
think we might have the same one.
I don't know because I don't think you've seen this film.
Never
It is
mind.
the Woman King, starring Viola Davis.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Um,
I haven't seen that.
This
neither have
movie is the best. It's basically about this tribe of all-female warriors protecting this kingdom and back in the 1800s, led by Viola Davis. And the first half is very character driven. You're kind of getting to know these warriors led by Viola Davis, who is ripped and fucking badass in this movie. And I love
Hell
Viola.
yeah.
I love Viola Davis. Who doesn't?
Hell yeah.
And the second half kind of detours into this sort of more in the lens of like Gladiator, Braveheart, epic scaled action sequences that are just sick. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about this movie, is that it's not reinventing the wheel in any way, but for what it is sort of a historical action movie with a very progressive message about, female empowerment and sort of this fragile masculine energy that they're butting up against, and, obviously Africa was being colonized by European countries at the time. So that kind of plays a role. But this movie just pays off so damn well in the third act. And I was really enjoying it. the build up and getting to know the characters and stuff. This movie just has a beautiful payoff, and the action's sick. And Viola Davis is hopefully going to get an Oscar nom because she's not only physically great in this movie, but she is such an emotional center that is the heart and soul of the Woman King. So yeah, I was a big fan.
Nice. Yeah, I know of this one, but I have not seen it, or it wasn't really on my radar at all. But yeah, I will take your recommendation to see it for sure.
Does Viola Davis have a moment where she's like, "Ah!"
I think
Does
she
she
does
do that at all?
It's much more like subtle than a Braveheart would be, but she has a lot of hype moments where she's beating the shit out of soldiers and war. There's a lot of war cries, where the kind of like what you're saying. Yeah. It rules. It's just such a great, fun action movie that's really character driven. So I loved it.
Sweet. Yeah, that sounds cool too. Another good one I did not get to.
Another one.
No,
I
okay.
missed.
All right, my number 16, guys. This is the blockbuster that I thought you were bringing up. I'm gonna build up it up for suspense. Do my best Cillian Murphy impression. It's the Batman. Which
Nice.
was a really big deal for a lot of people. A lot bigger deal for a lot of people more than me. But nevertheless, I thought it was really cool. I definitely vibed with it, was all for it.
Can you do your impression of the score?
Oh, it's like no, no, something in the way.
Yeah.
There was like the scene where Batman's
Nirvana
introduced, like
song.
da da da.
Yeah,
da.
da, da.
We were
Yeah,
humming that
really...
for a while.
Oh yeah. Da, da. Yeah, that was really cool for sure. Yeah, as he's like, they're like doing the, like, I don't know what kind of like.
He's like silhouetted, and he slowly comes in,
and he's like,
and he just punches the guy.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
cool.
It's really cool. It's even more like I don't know, like, because it's like so emo. It's like more like it's like Daredevil, Batman in a way,
Nirvana's Daredevil.
Yeah,
Batman.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, all very much all about like style too. Like it was very, very much about style. More of a like when Nolan's about like the crime thriller style, so it feels more real. This more feels like a comic booky dark emo style, which was cool. And like the city all felt the same, like its own just interconnected gross like sewer pipe of a city type thing. And like the lighting was like I thought I like the Dark Knight, and like I like it more than this movie. I mean, that's very subjective based on what you like more, I guess. But like in terms of like cinematography and which one has a more distinct look, I would give it to this one. Like this one has a lot of like very poetic imagery, like stuff that like you could I'm sure a lot of people are hanging up images of this like movie on their wall or something like that,
all over Instagram. And
definitely makes like great posters. Who knows, maybe there's some Batman NFTs that are out there, something like that. But
Greg Fraser, who shot Dune, shot that movie, so
right, which is all incredible. About look as well, and like aesthetic and
scope and sort of mood.
Right. And I do think this movie definitely had a very like the themes of Batman that explored, and like a lot of it being about I think him having a lot of anger, I think pent up anger, and a lot of that we've seen about Batman before, where it's just like about him being this very like unsung hero. I mean it's it's still just Batman. Like in the end, it's still about like revering the Batman in the end. And but it was cool. It was definitely very cool. I wouldn't be like, oh, where are we getting a sequel to this? No, I'd prefer if it's stuck in its own, like that this was a standalone film.
I don't know if it's gonna be.
It did really
of
well.
Course,
Yeah, so yeah.
They made a shit ton of cash because it's Batman.
Mhm.
Right. But I also like Matt Reeves was very like open, as if he would like there'd be a reason to not be open about it. But he's like how he wanted to this, like how he watched a lot of noir and tried to like infuse a noir like style and like noir Batman thing into this, which I think works really well. And like there's a lot of that in this too, which is cool. Yeah. It's all just very cool.
Yeah, I like the dark themes of it, and sort of like how the Nolan movies are like crime thrillers or got a lot of like Michael Mann comparisons.
Right.
And then this is more like a Fincher. There's like the Fincher comparisons that I've seen too.
Sure, yeah. Like Seven and this have like similar, like on we're creating Seven is like its own city, and it's ambiguous, like that sort of thing.
And it leans a little bit more into like the detective aspect of like the Batman lore. So yeah.
Right.
I like it too. This is actually my we're gonna
no way
screw Jake over too, because this is my 15. So
oh man.
So,
nice.
I'm not meant to talk this much. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Batman. Yeah, the Batman. But yeah, I thought it was really good as well. And I liked the moodiness of it, and I guess I'm excited to see where they go with it next. Just because I am interested in, like, out of all the superheroes, I guess I find Batman the most interesting. Maybe so. Yeah, that's my number 15. So I'll just piggyback off that.
It's a good call.
You're not interested in Ant-Man and where it's going, John? And
oh, I mean that too.
You're into Batman.
Really interested in Ant-Man and what they do with Captain Marvel next, obviously.
Phase 12 of the MCU has to be more hooked.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I want to see what they do with Moon Knight, and all these superheroes that I've never even heard of. I'm really, really interested. Yeah.
Marvel just does it right. I don't think there'll be any Marvel movies.
No Marvel movies on this list. Not even my worst of list, I think.
Yeah, I don't think I do either.
I haven't seen a Marvel movie this year. Any of them?
I think I just saw Doctor Strange, which is like very down the middle. So
wait, I saw Doctor Strange. Yeah, Doctor Strange it didn't make the list, but it's in the middle.
Oh, Thor is gonna make. Okay, we'll talk. Thor was pretty awful. I'll talk
Actually,
about that.
Thor is top 5 for me.
Yeah, I loved it. My number 15 is shit. I'm kind of having a John moment where I'm like, might be a little higher than it is ranked currently, but I'll just say it. It's The Fabelmans at number 15. Steven Spielberg's portrait of his childhood and beyond. I mean, I love this movie. Like, who doesn't love this movie? And the thing, I think you guys are going to be more in depth because it's probably like in your top 5s. I'm guessing.
Yeah,
I think
it's pretty high. Yeah,
and I love this movie.
We happen to love it.
It's very good. It's very, very good. Just everything about it is. I think the things I'll say real quick is that I think Spielberg's Golden Globe speech was pretty enlightening the other day because he won for Best Director and Best Drama. He's a fearless filmmaker, but to see things this taboo in his life put to screen, and how he talked about how difficult it was because he wrote this script or the treatment for the script when he was like after Jaws, I think, between Close Encounters and Jaws.
Wow.
So
okay. I don't know any of that stuff. I don't know any. That stuff
Yeah.
I need to interviews for Spielberg. I do need to watch more about.
This has
for
become
movie.
like one of the most revealing points to like the most revered filmmaker in US history. So and just to see the courage it took to put that on screen for him, because obviously it was very taboo and he put it at the back of his mind for so long and came out with every other vision that he ever had before it. So just it felt like just such a weight off his shoulders, which I really appreciated. And to have it be done so elegantly and so richly told, and so much patience in his filmmaking in his later part of his career, I really love to see. And I think this movie is so much more weird and unique than what people describe it as, you know, because obviously it's the portrait of Spielberg coming up and finding his love for filmmaking and the divorce of his parents. You know, that's all stuff we knew about him. But, you know, to see the really specific moments of his childhood occur, I think are not only really unique, but also really revealing to you know, there's two sides to Spielberg. There's a really technical OCD part that he got from his father. Then the other half is like this dreamer sort of hyperactive just dreamer of like his mom that he got. So to see those two things injected into Steven, I thought was really special, and just portrayed so beautifully in the movie. And it'll go down as like one of his more, just I think will be like one of his most unique movies in my opinion that he's ever directed. So yeah, that's what I'll say. I know I said I was going to briefly, but I got into the role.
I think for the sake of this one being in my top 5 and one of my favorite movies I watched this year, I'll save my thoughts since we're going to bridge these episodes and we have another one. So just for the sake of that, for that episode being as good as it can be, since it's the top 10, I will wait. Yeah.
Pull a tar. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty high on my list too.
All right. Well, my number 15 is Barbarian, and I will keep it brief since we talked a lot about it. But I'll say that Barbarian is possibly the scariest movie I've ever watched alone. So I'll say that
Wow.
it makes me have faith in myself that I can keep watching horror movies alone, and I don't feel the need to have to watch some of them in a group, because sometimes I feel the need because. Yeah, it's scary.
I do think they are more fun in a group.
This one would have been more fun for sure in a group if I had done it. But I also thought it was fun that I was just like by myself, like cringing, like clenching my body the whole time, you know.
Nice. All right. Well, so that's all you got to say about your 15.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
That is it, guys.
So John, that's your 14 then? Like you
no, my
14, guys.
My 16 was Barbarian, 15 was the Batman.
Yeah.
My list has been all like weird now because I think a few of mine have matched up with Luke here randomly.
Yeah.
So now, my 14, we're down to the last 4 of part 1 here. I hesitated to put this on just because it's not a narrative film. It's the only documentary on my list, but
wow, we might have to say we're about to line up, I think.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, we're about to line up.
It's Moon Age Daydream, the David Bowie movie from this year.
Didn't get to it.
That's my number 14. Yeah.
Yeah, and man, I've always been like a casual David Bowie fan, but after watching this, I was like, "Oh my god, he's amazing.
He's a god."
Is it the Beatles get back all over again?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Now I am obsessed with him.
I did start listening to so much David Bowie afterwards.
Me too. Yeah.
And it's just it's just one of these documentaries that it's not talking heads. It's way different from the Beatles Get Back too, or it's just all these. Just a collection of all of this footage of David Bowie and either different interviews or different music videos or concert films that he did. It's all very like artistic and visually stimulating and interesting. And Yeah, and I think it just is a really cool, unique portrayal of him as an artist and a person, and a lot, a lot that I didn't really know about him, and I think the interviews, while they're less, sort of chaotic and surreal as this that some of the footage is, I just think he's just one of these artists that just has a very interesting viewpoint, or well thought out, um, just viewpoint on who he is. Like he's very intentional about like certain things that he does, and I just found him to be a really interesting person and very like human and relatable, while
Yeah.
also being this like otherworldly artist. And yeah, it's just some of the footage is just so cool. Just I could watch David Bowie going up and down that escalator for like
Yes.
12 hours. I could just watch footage of that.
Do you know where that's from? Is that from The Man Who Fell to Earth or something like that?
Maybe it is. I was reading
Oh.
after that that some people were saying that it was just a collection of footage from like other David Bowie, either documentaries or stuff.
Right.
So that, but to me, a lot of it was new because I haven't seen that much.
Me too.
So yeah, so even if it was from something else, for me with like fresh eyes, I was really into it, and yeah, I loved. Yeah, I don't know. I just loved the just the feel of it, that it wasn't just generic and just talking heads of people saying how much they love David Bowie and everything. And
Yeah.
like I tried to watch that Andy Warhol documentary this past year that was on Netflix. It was like a docu-series, and I just got so tired of it because it's like I don't really give a shit to hear about Rob Lowe talk about Andy Warhol. No disrespect to Rob Lowe, but yeah, I thought this was really cool and interesting, and I'm glad you recently saw it too, Jake. Yeah.
I loved it, and it kind of, since this movie was so just visually stimulating, and obviously his music is fantastic, this would have been such a great theater experience too. I know it had like a lot of theater showings, and kind of a lot of my friends that I've talked to about this said that it was like the best theater experience they had in, having deep love for Bowie. I just love the exposure of to learn that he, so early on in his career, because obviously he got famous really young, that he kind of saw himself as like a blank canvas and sort of adopted all these different personas and kind of artists that he admired. Because like that movie, the documentary is full of just movies and artists and paintings that he just adored, especially in the first half. Just to see him sort of absorbing all of that art and kind of develop, because you really see the developmental stages of his life and kind of how he developed his persona later in life. So I felt that was just so moving, and I agree, just like there's like a cosmic sci-fi element to this movie, because a lot of his early music especially dealt with space travel, obviously, and kind of like other worlds that he wanted to discover, and to see that visually put on screen, it was just so gorgeous. And I love how kind of messy the documentary feels, and it's just a lot of his brain dumped out. But there is this through line of just kind of exploring his life, and the ending especially. I don't want to spoil it, but it was just it was very self-empowering and inspiring at the very end of it. So yeah, and I like you, I'm a casual Bowie head, and now I kind of like want to go on a deep dive like on all of his albums and the movies that he started and everything. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, gained a lot more respect for him. And yeah, I mean, I kind of said this too, but it's like he, in these interviews, he would say like very human, relatable things. It's like, oh yeah, I feel like he just sees the world a little bit differently, and things that might seem like they're like meaningless or whatever, he puts some like meaning into them. But then he's also this otherworldly person. So yeah, it's inspiring to see that just like he's like a person with the same sort of I don't know, feelings and like troubles that we all have. But yeah, I don't know what he was
had
what
such
he was able to do.
Such a strong desire to evoke feeling out of his people with his arts. Like he always mentioned just paintings and stuff that had moved him so deeply. So It was good to see like such a stripped down version of that, where he was just like, to see his intentions were so clear from the get go, you know. So, highly recommend everyone checks that out. You know, it's such a great comforting watch for that would just make you fall in love with Bowie if you're not already.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, my number 14. It's a little boring of a transition. My number 14 is Ambulance, which we talked about already. I don't have much more to say about it. Like I said, just happy that this year had a lot of unique blockbusters. I guess blockbusters that did very well, that stuck around for a while in the theaters, and they weren't from another IP or something,
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah,
like,
I
and
totally
so
agree. Yeah.
so, and this isn't the best one of those, but it's definitely like, you know, maybe in the top 5 of those, like just about in the top 5 of those if I had to rank them. So yeah, I'll be talking about more later in my list.
Ambulance.
But yeah, I totally agree. I feel like this year there were a lot of great blockbuster movies that weren't like a Marvel movie or like
Yeah,
And
which was
even sequels like Top Gun, like, you know, I think that's in a different category. That'll obviously come up later.
Yes, it will.
All right. Well, my number 13 then. I feel like this might come up later for you guys too, but it's the new Park Chan-wook movie, Decision to Leave. And I did not know that Park Chan-wook was going to have a movie come out this year, so I was very excited when this came out because he's a director that I feel like we've talked about a lot past year. But
yeah,
after watching one of his movies, I'm always like, where can I see more of this same thing? Like I remember watching The Handmaiden, I think some point last year, and I was like, I just want to watch more of this, like more things like this. And same with like Old Boy. And so yeah, he always does something interesting, and I just feel like they're always so creative, and another director who has sort of his own distinct vision in these movies that are so unique to him. And yeah, this had a great romance and mystery aspect to it, and all led up to an incredible climax, like all of his movies do. And yeah, I guess I won't go too further into it for the sake of, I don't know, spoilers or whatever. But yeah, Decision to Leave, I think was another great Park Chan-wook movie. I don't think it didn't have the same. I mean, it's not on the same level as The Handmaiden and Old Boy are for me, but it's really hard to top those, I think. But this is still just really great movie, and yeah, pretty high on my list, number 13. Yeah,
I'll save my thoughts similar to Fablemans and Tar because it's very high up. So teaser.
Whoa.
But I
love those save your thoughts, man. We're building the hype for our next one.
Also,
episode.
We're for sake of time also.
yeah.
Jake's got to go, guys. Number 13, right? It's my turn.
I think it's my turn.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what you get for picking movies that we talked about, I think, right? Because you had an
Don't blame me, blame the order of your list.
We all fucked each other at different points, I guess.
Yeah.
13, I have a movie I love, a movie that was very, very much bombed at the box office, but I was a huge fan and proponent of it, was 3,000 Years of Longing, directed by George Miller. And like, to follow up such a behemoth masterpiece like Mad Max Fury Road, I think this was like the correct move to kind of use the the success and fame and sort of studio clout that he got to just make a wholly original personal story. Like this movie I think is so down to earth and beautiful and kind of just tells the story about what stories mean to us and the good and bad parts that they kind of can have effect on our psyche and our alienation and our expectations for love and all these really just profound things that he had to say with this movie. Not to mention the scale and the production design of the stories that Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba exchange with each other are just gorgeous. So I'm just really baffled that this movie bombed so much and that people disliked it, because I was just so deeply moved by the whole movie, and definitely one of the best George Miller movies in his whole catalog, if you ask me. And no Fury Road, but man,
it's right up there with Happy Feet for
me.
Yeah,
it's right there with Babe Pig in the City and Lorenzo Zoil and stuff. So it's one I'll always recommend to people, because not a lot of people saw it, but I think it's great.
Yeah, I also really loved 3,000 Years of Longing. I thought it was a very empathetic movie, and I think it's crazy, but it just speaks to how great Idris Elba and Tilda Swinton are. But just the fact that I loved the dynamic between them and their sort of relationship that develops. Obviously George Miller is just visually stunning, and just a great movie to visually see, as well as a nice story to go along with it. So
yeah,
we're just on a streak of movies that I haven't seen at the moment. There's one of the ones I didn't get to, but definitely was on the list.
Yeah, definitely worth still watching it after this video, even, because
it's like I traded movie. Tar for 3,000 Years of Longing or something like that,
Right. Yeah, that's finally your turn though.
Yeah, now it's back to you.
I don't want to go now. No, my 13th is we talked about it a while ago now, because it was on Jake's list. Cha Cha Real Smooth, which was actually on the last episode John and I did last year. The movies that make me want to be better. Cha Cha Real Smooth was on there. Probably the latest movie on the list. And it's just because this movie's about caring about others and is a very earnest lead, and is really about real people and real problems, and also just has a perspective that I think is timeless and new, and
that transitional point in your 20s.
Yeah. And I am Team Cooper Rife. He looks like Adam Scott, but he's a director and younger, and is his own thing for sure. And definitely I hope that he keeps finding people like Dakota Johnson to be in his films and get him bigger budgets, so he can eventually sell out and star in a Marvel film. And like be helping Peter Parker or something like that. Nah, he wouldn't do that. I'm sure he's always going to do his own thing.
It's painting a really bleak and probable future.
Yeah, probable, a little probable, but I definitely can tell that this guy's his own thing, is always going to want to do his own thing, and is just good for anyone, and anyone, not just anyone young and who wants to make movies, but anyone who's just young in general.
Definitely.
I still have to get to Cha Cha Real Smooth. I'm mad I haven't, because Luke, I've heard you talk about it now a couple times on the podcast. It's always sounded so good, but I realized I hadn't been watching Apple TV Plus like at all. So I was like, why am I paying for this right now? So
you forgot about it, so went to the wayside. Yeah.
So I paused that, and I was like, when Severance season 2 comes out, I'll
get
it again.
Yeah. It's all about Severance though. Yeah, that's true. That's understandable.
Yeah. And then when I was cramming for 2022, I was like, fuck, that was on Apple TV Plus. But I will get to it eventually. But yeah.
When the next season of Severance comes out,
alongside Severance.
Use that to
Exactly. All right.
But yeah.
That was 13.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Final two.
All right. Well, my number 12, I'm fairly certain is maybe a little bit higher on your lists. So I think we'll probably talk more about it in the next part. But it's Armageddon Time.
Yeah.
Nice.
James Gray.
I watched
And
this last night. No, wait, no, the night
Oh.
before. Yeah.
cool.
Uh,
Yeah. This I saw, we talked about on the podcast. I saw at the Denver Film Festival. It was the
Oh wow.
Right.
red carpet presentation there. A little bummed that nobody from the
Not anybody
film was
was
there.
Damn.
So,
Anthony Hopkins didn't show up.
yeah, even let's the kid who I'm gonna insult him by not saying his name because I don't know it, but he could have been
I
there to
would.
introduce
If he was
us to-
there, I would have known who he was.
Yeah.
He could have told me who he was.
Yeah.
Banks
Uh,
is his name.
Yeah. Shout out
The important thing is
to
though,
that kid.
John got a free Coors Light at the Denver.
Free Coors Light. It was great. I was with all these old guys with their young girlfriends with fake boobs, and it was me walking around with like my hipster bomber jacket and Coors Light in hand, walking around. Very fun experience. And also, I mean, I'll say seeing this at the Opera House in Denver is really cool. Like the screen is just massive and it's like curved a little bit. It's just a very cool venue.
Nice.
And yeah, I didn't know much about Armageddon Time, but we talked about Ad Astra. I remember in our best of whatever year, 2018 or 19, whenever that came out. I remember Luke and I, we both really loved Ad Astra and talked about it a lot. And yeah, James Gray just really making these great like family dynamic movies. And I thought this was really great. It blew me away because I didn't know anything about it. I thought both the young kids in this that were sort of leading the movie were really great in it, and it used a lot of real life themes. It wasn't like Green Book where it's like involving these like basic, clearly just like a out of touch white person made this movie, sort of like racial, racial structure in this time in America. And I thought it was a really nice, maybe this would be like a gentle movie for like a gentle category, a little bit. I don't know, but I thought I just thought it was a really, really nice movie about family that is incredibly relatable too for anyone who's been a child in America. It could be related.
Yeah. Like I definitely, I'll save a lot of thoughts, but like I will say, I definitely related to the upbringing a lot, very much.
Me too. Yeah.
The family dynamic was very, very relatable and like almost like the parents really looking out for the kids and in a way limiting them, where the grandparents sort of seeing where the parents are getting it wrong.
Kind of. And I'd say maybe Jake, you let me know whether you think I'm right or wrong or in the middle. I think like maybe Anthony Hopkins is like maybe the best supporting actor, lead. Okay.
No, he's supported. He's supporting. Yeah.
Best supporting actor, like probably the lead of the.
To win?
Leading that charge, you think?
This movie is just not talked about for Academy stuff, which is ridiculous to me. So I don't think he is, but he's he would be my vote. So
maybe it's probably, if not him, then maybe who is it? Like Michelle Williams or something?
Man, I mean, for supporting actor, I think it's Kiwi Kwan from Everything Everywhere.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's not a bad,
yeah. It's a tough call though, man. There's a lot of good performances, but I mean, sadly, a lot of my favorites are kind of getting overlooked. But
it's just when I was watching Hopkins, I was like, this is I was just thinking this is guaranteed like an Oscar
you would think
nomination.
Not enough people have seen the movie.
Think. Right.
He'll probably be in line for a Bummy, which matters more. So yeah.
Exactly. That's kind of what I'm thinking is will will pay
Yeah.
dues to him.
I mean, his scene in the park alone is like probably my top 5 favorite scenes of the year. So
Oh yeah.
it's just unbelievably moving. So, but I will save my other thoughts for later.
Yeah. That's my number 12. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm just realizing, quick side note, I'm pretty sure I forgot to put Everything Everywhere All at Once on my list.
It's an honorable mention for me.
Which is I don't think it would have been probably, it would have been on this list. So I really screwed up with that one. And
I think
it's coming up on my list.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, that movie's
it.
like a top 5,
it's most
movie.
people's like number 1. Yeah. So, but John's
exactly.
I'd
say the majority of people, it's like the number 1, and I didn't even put it. I forgot to put it on my list at all.
It's one of the collective favorites of the year just the public.
I really like it too. It's my number 32, right after Kimmy. So, my list is just too long. It would be in there, but
I'd like to think I would have put it ahead of a lot of things. It's not
Marry
like
Me.
top 10 for me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man, that might have been.
I'm glad we got to talk about "Marry Me," though.
Yeah, no, that's
if it weren't for you, we wouldn't have. Yeah,
no one would have
brought it up.
"Marry Me" in their top 25, but me, only me. So that's why it's like
Deep Water and "Marry Me" might be solely.
Yeah.
It's all good,
But
we'll
also,
talk.
I did miss like 5 movies that you guys had on that could have bounced some of those out.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah. All
But,
right.
okay.
I'll do my 12 now. Don't know if you guys have gotten the chance to see this one yet, but really loved Bones and All, directed by Luca Guadagnino from.
I did not.
Yeah, I mean that's a later. That one's came out pretty late in the year, so unfortunately, a lot of people missed it. But Luca Guadagnino, coming off of Suspiria, Call Me by Your Name, is really become one of the most unique filmmakers working today, and this movie's maybe my favorite of all of his movies. It's really close with Call Me by Your Name, but this movie was just incredibly unique tonally, because it's a cannibal romance. So right there you have a really conflicting tones, but someone like Luca Guadagnino, who's so introspective about the human experience, in my opinion, really understood just kind of the psychology of this sort of time period, because this movie takes place I think in the midst of like the Reagan era in America, and it's sort of just these two young people kind of find each other, Taylor Russell, Timothy Chalamet, who are both just phenomenal, but this movie really kind of served as like a stand-in for like the drug epidemic of the late 80s or mid 80s, and sort of that how they're kind of just thrown out by society, and the baby boomer generation just didn't know how to handle sort of this new wave of thought, and that's how I sort of read the movie. But yeah, this movie was just extremely unique and kind of upsetting for a lot of people for grotesque reasons, but also the fact that you sympathize with cannibals was tough for a lot of people. But I was very moved by this movie, and Mark Rylance,
oh man,
is
he's
just so damn creepy and menacing, as he's sort of the antithesis to their love story. And this movie is just a great road movie too. Like it's kind of like a throwback to like something like, not in the tone, but like something like Paper Moon or Badlands, and sort of that kind of freeing 1970s sort of feeling of just the open road and possibility in Americana at the time. So it was great to see a nice throwback 70s movie kind of in the frame of a cannibal Luca Guadagnino movie. So it's definitely one of the hardest movies to sort of sit down and explain to people that haven't seen it, but you just gotta experience it for yourselves is what I'll say. So that's 12.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to seeing that, and I honestly, when the word cannibals came out of your mouth, I was not expecting that at all.
you
Yeah.
weren't aware about
Yeah,
that.
I had no
me
idea what it
Hannibal.
was about. Yeah.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Oh,
like Call
wow.
Me by Your Name too. Like literally.
In many ways, it is though. Actually, there's a lot of romance mixed in there.
But then, bones and all, I guess that makes more sense.
yeah,
Yeah,
Now that I
yeah.
think about it, but yeah.
Right.
I got you. But yeah, Timothy is continuing to pick really interesting projects. He's playing Bob Dylan and Willy Wonka soon.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting following that dude's career for sure.
So like a Willy Wonka upbringing one, or like
It's like
Backstory.
a
Prequel?
prequel. Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, that's
Directed.
interesting.
It's the same director as Paddington 2. So
Oh,
it's like
wow.
it's a big follow up for that guy. I'm into it. I'll definitely see it.
No,
Yeah.
that sounds really great. For sure. All right, you up, John? Oh, am I up?
You're up.
You're up, yeah.
Sorry. My number 12 is The Northman.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, just definitely got really hyped and immersed during this. And I remember when I got out of the theater, I felt like I had to get my, I don't know, I felt like it took a while to, I guess, land back on the ground of like where I actually was and just end like, I don't know. I felt like I had very much left the Burbank Theater, like I said before during
you
yours.
ascended.
And, I ascended, yeah. I transcended, ascended, all that stuff. It's just damn good filmmaking is what that is.
Yeah, that'll still come up later on my list too. So yeah, I'll have more to say about it. But yeah, it was a very transcendent experience. When I left, I felt like a man just from watching that. I just wanted to
Turns
go
out I'm still a
pillage some
boy.
town. Yeah,
Just want to pillage a town, eat someone's
Yeah.
like guts and stuff. Yeah.
Well, if you want to like pretend, make believe, John, you're in a good location, Colorado.
Oh yeah.
John's
Just
like
hiking,
to
scaling
recreate
around.
it, to recreate it. I feel like it resembles it.
You could totally have a sword fight next to like a volcano that's erupting out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But then when I see the footage of myself with my shirt off, and then it just totally the allure just goes away. It's very depressing after that.
I don't have the body to do that.
No. I'll work on my Skarsgård bod, but yeah, that'll be years down the road. Okay, yeah. I guess we're down to the last one for part 1 here. Number 11, and mine is 3,000 Years of Longing. So yeah, I feel good about what we said before. This one is overlooked, and I think it's a really, really beautiful movie. And I again, like, what really hooked it for me was hooked me for it was the just dynamic between Idris Elba and Tilda Swinton. It was a really, really nice movie. At the end of it, I felt good. So that's 3,000 Years of Longing, my number 11. Just barely missed my top 10. So yeah.
So I'm definitely ending on a very, very high note. So high,
man.
so high, I might touch the sky, as Kanye.
I want to go
would say.
higher.
I wish I had a gong right now to slow interlude into Tom Cruise riding his bike down a runway, which is probably the greatest image in cinema of the year. Top Gun Maverick. I wish it was higher, but there's so many other good movies, but I still love it. I was deeply, deeply moved by fighter jets and Tom Cruise's charisma. I mean, this movie is just a home run on every level. It brought people back, and Tom Cruise single-handedly almost saved movie theaters this year because this movie was so successful. And I mean, just the craft of it is just astounding, and Tom Cruise's commitment to make it as authentic and as visceral and as exciting as possible. And again, you guys are gonna rave about it just as much as I do when it comes up, I'm sure, in your number 2s and number 1s. And just such an improvement to the first Top Gun that I'm just so mixed on, to have it be this sort of flawless and satisfying. Tom Cruise, in my opinion, deserves an Oscar nomination for this performance. It is astoundingly
for performance, or like
there's a
producing?
chance he will get no, for performance, and producing. Why not? You know,
I think it'd be great to see Tom Cruise as like a producer up on the stage. You know?
yeah. Because side note, I watched Jack Reacher Never Go Back last night, which was a miserable film experience. But to see, I always get chills when it's like a Tom Cruise production before we see the first shot. So
Jack Reacher is not a Tom Cruise production.
it is. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's still at the beginning, it was a Tom Cruise production because
Right.
McQuarrie produced it, and like it's
Right.
it's a full on. The movie sucked, but I was still like, yes, here we go. It's a Tom Cruise production,
Right.
And
you feel like you can trust it somewhat. Always.
right, yeah. But yeah, man, it's a winning movie, and Miles Teller, Glenn Powell, Jennifer Connelly are all fantastic. Lady Gaga's score. I was listening to the score the other day, like just kind of reminiscing about all the songs in the movie. I didn't even realize that Lady Gaga was a composer on the movie. Not even, I know she did the song, but she had a lot of hands in the final song and sort of the build-up songs in the middle. So just a lot of great people working on Top Gun Maverick.
Right.
One of the movies we'll look back on this year, and you'll definitely remember seeing it in the theater, seeing it in IMAX, and holding on to your armrests as he elevates into the sky. Yeah,
amazing theater experience. We'll definitely talk about this in part 1.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Top Gun Maverick is kind of high on my list. I was listening to the Lady Gaga song one day as I was driving to work, and I was just like, this is so like insane of a song like to have at the end of your movie.
It is. It's a great fucking song.
Yeah, like all the little like beats to it, where just like all the energy she builds through it. It's such a banger.
It's kind of like Celine Dion's Titanic, where it just keeps getting more and more emotional as it builds. So
and I'll be listening. I'm like, this is such an amazing song. I'll be like, I can't believe this is specifically for this movie, Top Gun Maverick. Yeah.
We'll definitely talk about that one more.
We're all of our moments where we just rave about it, I'm sure.
All right, so I'm capping us off for the episode.
Yep.
All right, my number 11 is Jackass Forever, which we talked about twice already. Did we talk about it all, both of you guys?
Just once. It just missed my list, but it's
okay,
gotcha.
Got it.
It's high 20s. Yeah.
Got it. Jackass Forever. So, high 20s. Yeah. Jackass Forever definitely was number one for a while. And I didn't, even though I knew it was earlier in the year, like I had no problem with it. I was totally like happy with it being number one. Like I felt good about it. Number 5 was Marry Me. I felt good about that too. But this movie's like great. And also Jake kind of, you showed me all. I wouldn't have done this if it weren't for you, but we rewatched every Jackass before this came out, and that was just such a good time. And,
that was fun.
This one ended up being like, I don't know, it's hard to rank these really, but I definitely like enjoyed these as much as any of them, if not more than any of them, just because the formula just, it's like Mission Impossible. The formula keeps getting crazier with the stunts and stuff like that. And
it's like the Rogue Nation of the franchise, mate.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
When it really just elevates. One of those.
And I guess one thing I can add new in terms of maybe an insight on this movie, I did watch a lot of interviews with Johnny Knoxville, with Howard Stern as he promoted this movie, and Johnny Knoxville opened up a lot about a history with like depression and things like that. And I really like, like that just really opened up a whole new, more just like feelings I have about Johnny Knoxville. And he like, he talked about how probably a lot of the things he did when he was younger, such as like maybe acting wild and, maybe doing some drugs, some partying. And on top of that, a lot of the stunts are like kind of, like a cover up for like depression. And then when he stopped doing those things, when he took a break, like he really, like that's when he started to feel a lot of the depression. And and he was also like saying that there was a certain point where he got where it's like he's like chosen to decide not to, like he's really got to calm down with the stunts, because like there's certain ones where he just like doesn't know how much his body can take anymore, just because he keeps pushing it. And I think he might have a family and stuff too, so that probably is a factor. But he did reference like a specific stunt in Jackass Forever that like really rock. I like maybe one of you guys would remember because it's probably one of the biggest stunts, but where it really rocked his body, and that's where he had to like draw the line. Like I think he might have broken a bone or two and was out for like a while, and then like like I think you're in the middle of production while they're doing that. I don't know if their production necessarily works the same way, because like in that there's a schedule necessarily, because it does feel more like documentary style for them. But I just thought that was all very interesting, because like we said, those guys always do seem just very like it's all good vibes, and stuff like that. And but then we do forget there's things like Steve-O's drug addiction, and now like, and then there's stuff with Johnny Knoxville and stuff like that. So I don't know, that just like makes me like these guys more, and like connect with them more, and make me feel like stronger about what they do as like artists, really. So yeah.
To that note too, I've started to listen a little bit to Steve-O's podcast.
It's a good pod. Wild ride.
Yeah. And it's nice to hear like these other sides of them. Like, it's easy for just some random person who doesn't really care about Jackass to just see these as like idiots, see these guys as just idiots. And why would they do that? With Steve-O's just a really like intelligent guy who's been through a lot personally and had an interesting life. And and they all do really care about what they do, and they care about each other. And they I think they all really seem like good people at the end of the day, who they're doing this stuff to themselves for our entertainment. So it definitely, this Jackass movie just made me really like them all as people a lot more.
Totally.
All right. Well, that rounds out. What were you gonna say, Jake?
I was like, that was a great genuine note to end on for Jackass too.
Yeah. Well, I might as well, rather than been like number 11. Like
we talked about that already.
But that's number 25 through 11 of 2022. So like as we said, we're back for season 6, and I think it's worth noting, even though John and I are on season 6, Jake is personally on his own season 2 with us, but he is just along for the ride. It's like when The Office brought on Idris Elba. Ed Helms, Ed Helms is way better.
I'll take the Andy Bernard. Maybe
that's way better than an example. But Ed Helms came
not a short-term one.
Because if I was Idris Elba, I would leave after my season.
That means like that's implying that you are gonna leave soon.
And I was a big dick to both of you. Also, the hard ass of the podcast.
But anyway, basically, you're the Ed Helms.
I'll take that.
And
I am Chandler and Joey and
Kramer.
Lucas Kramer.
Dwight is Kramer.
That's funny. But like we're happy that you joined us last year and of all the
Yeah,
good things, all the
Yes.
good things you did, and are helping us like grow, and not only by telling us what movies we should watch, but by doing your own episodes with like people like Carlos and your roommate and others, and who are like just broadening everything that we're trying to do, and we're looking forward to doing more things together. And
Hell yeah.
yeah, guys, let's that's a good cap off to the new season. I'm looking forward to the top 10, which we should be doing sometime next week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Real
everyone will probably post our like top 25 through 11. I have to keep remembering what we exactly just did, and everyone can tell us what they thought of our 25 for 11, how Jake's was so good and Luke's fucking sucked or whatever. And
They'll be mad that we admitted that Everything Everywhere is not on our list at all. Probably.
I'm sure, like, out of everything, like, forget the marry me thing. I probably really offended people that it's not even on my list. So
you started with Marry Me, and you're like, this is it. This is the way to cap it off, to start it all off.
This is the baseline. Yeah, marry me.
A big fuck you. To
That's the
movie
dirt,
lovers
the line in the
everywhere.
sand right there is Marry Me.
The line in the sand. But I know that like at times, with that like maybe it was a little messy for this one, but I will say that 10 to 1 is going to get pretty real.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are ones I watched pretty recently. And so, yeah, looking forward to sharing that very soon as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excited for the start of this season. Top 10. The Bummies coming up.
Yeah, we'll have a Bummies coming eventually. I don't know when the exact Oscar date is, but we'll try to align that.
Yeah,
It's like
timeline.
around March, I think, as of right now.
So it remains to be seen, but we may have do some random shit before the Bummies start, just to like, to carry over during that time. But yeah, the Bummies will be back, and we will give Anthony Hopkins his praise. And
Best performance of all time.
It's mainly the reason why I want to do it.
What if he shows up? We could show up digitally for the Bummies.
Oh yeah, let's get him in the Zoom.
I wasn't invited to the Spirit Awards, the Oscars, or the Grammys, but I was on the not Grammys, of course not. But of course, I was on the Bummies. Yeah.